Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session. So today we are going to formally start the very first chapter, Sociology The Discipline. Yesterday I gave you an overview associated with the chapter, whereby I discussed how the various subtopics of this chapter are correlated. At the same time, I also discussed with you that how the other continued chapters are associated with this one, as in the overall framework or the overview of UPSC syllabus pertaining to sociology optional. I also explained to all of you that how in the process of like connecting and discussing the very possibility of this discipline, what are the types of questions? I discussed the four types of questions that UPSC generally engages in. So as we are going to substantiate the given possibilities pertaining to the same, can we just reduce the mic? थोड़ा ज़्यादा मुझे लग रहा है हल्का सा just announcement. So as we are going to start with the discussion, we all can like see that what are the subtopics associated with this very first chapter. In this first chapter, you all can see that there are like three topics, that is modernity and social changes in Europe and emergence of sociology. Second is scope of the subject and comparison with other social sciences. And third is sociology and common sense. So you might be able to recall yesterday's session, which was like, yes, it's perfect. So you can recall yesterday's session whereby I discussed what is modernity, what are the three aspects of modernity when we are talking about the economic changes, when we are talking about political changes, and when we are talking about intellectual changes. Simultaneously, I discussed about the word scope. What do we imply by the word scope? And I discussed that why the scope was necessary to be discussed, because until unless we don't understand the subject matter or the boundary of the subject, we don't understand what is the subject dealing with truly. And the third was sociology and common sense, whereby yesterday I discussed what is common sense, how it is different from sociology, and how common sense can also act as one of the sources supporting the content or the subject matter of sociology. If anyone has missed yesterday's session, as in you have not attended it online or offline or whatever mode, then please do attend yesterday's session because it is the backbone of the forthcoming sessions. All right. I have shared the link of it in the group and you can just have an access to it from the group or the management. If you have yet not taken the admission, the management can share the link because it has been shared with them. Now, so as we are going to start with this, I requested all of you to get a printout of the handout. Yesterday, I shared it in the group, the handout itself. And after sharing it in the group, I said that you can just take a printout of the handout, or if you have a tablet and you're writing it down in the tablet, that's also perfectly fine with me. All I want to say is simultaneously as I teach, learn how to prepare notes. I cut down majority of your misery with respect to dictation. I'm one of those few teachers in the industry who doesn't believe in dictation. I believe that lecture means the capability to titillate thinking. The real teacher is the one who makes a student think, understand, imagine, and connect. When I talk about this given possibility, there's a very common word you must have heard of it, wisdom. So whenever we talk about wisdom or sociological wisdom or wisdom in any discipline, so wisdom is not arrived at like in just one day. We can reflect upon this word from the three words that we all can talk about. That is, when we are talking about this, we can connect it with the three possibilities of learning. First, you start with observation. Observation is when you are witnessing the facts of any given discipline, when you are getting exposed to the given facts of any given discipline. So observation is associated with exposure and awareness. So with exposure and awareness, observation leads to, if we talk about it, that is introspection. Okay, introspection. When we talk about introspection, introspection is something which is associated with the capability to analyze. So when you truly understand the facts, when you are truly exposed to the facts, you're aware of the facts, you are thorough with the facts, then only you can analyze. In the absence of wholesome understanding of the facts, you cannot analyze. Analysis is possible only when the basic information is understood or is well received. So, Observation facilitates analysis or introspection. And this introspection facilitates application. When I say application, are you able to connect the theory that has been taught with the real life wisdom? What is unfolding for all of us around whatever is like happening? So application is associated with what? Application is associated with the way we can implement the theory in reality. Okay, so application is associated with, we can consider how we are able to connect. So the connection with the applied world, the applied reality. So when you are able to connect what? The theory with the, applied reality, whatever is unfolding. So the combination of the three leads to wholesome wisdom. So wisdom, that's why we say wise old men, wise old women. So we use the word wise, not for someone who's necessarily literate. Literacy is not the sole facilitator of wisdom. Literacy exposes you to facts. That's it. But only when you are able to analyze those facts, when you are able to apply those facts, that you attain wisdom. So sociological wisdom is attained by the three processes. This handout and simultaneous handouts that I will be giving associated with the forthcoming chapters. With every single chapter, I'll be providing you the handout. That saves us from what? It saves us from dictation. So what do you need to take down? You should take down every time I'm writing something on the board, because that is something which will not come in the form of a handout. Second, if I'm drawing flowcharts on the board, then you should always take down those flowcharts. Third, if I'm underlining keywords, you should make a logical corollary of those keywords so that you learn how to prepare notes. So I hope that's making sense to all of you, right? Because every single student is supposed to learn how to prepare the notes. I repeat once again because it's a beginner batch and students generally have a tendency to get confused. So today we are having the session. We have the session even tomorrow. Monday onwards, initially in the month of July, we will be having 4 sessions. That is Monday to Thursday. After July is over, and July is like barely 3 weeks left because 10 days is over. We are left with 20 days. So after July is over, August onwards, we'll have 5 sessions per week. That is Monday to Friday. All right. So here, when we are going to get exposed to this very first chapter, the first chapter is dealing with 3 subparts: modernity and social changes in Europe, and how this background, this modernity and social changes in Europe, this is actually the formidable background that I had shared with all of you yesterday quite exhaustively without showing you the notes. So how this background leads to the emergence of sociology as a discipline. So this is what we'll start with today as a discussion. Then we'll be discussing about scope of the subject. Scope means subject matter, the boundary. Whenever we say what is the scope of this or that, what do we imply? Scope means the application, the boundary, the subject matter. So scope of the subject means what is the subject dealing with? What are the topics which are incorporated within it? And what are the topics which are outside its realm? So we can consider the boundary of the subject matter. I hope that's making sense. And then we have comparison with other social sciences. So comparison with other social sciences. How we can compare sociology with other social sciences, right? Then we have sociology and common sense. So sociology, what is sociology and what is common sense? This is the last subtopic. I believe this is something which we won't be able to touch. In fact, the second subtopic also is tough to touch today. I hope and pray that we are able to complete the first given subtopic. This will be my focus. It is initial session, so I'll try to be as slow as possible so that you are able to catch up with it. The moment I realize that you are pacing up with the content, then I'll start increasing my pace bit by bit. Right now, I'll be as simplistic and detailed as possible, even repeating in bits and pieces what I had discussed yesterday itself. So yesterday I discussed what is modernity. Who would like to explain what is modernity in simple language? What is modern? What do we imply by the word modern? Yes, all of you. Along with all of you, the online students as well. What does the word modernity imply?
Ma'am,
Yes.
scientific testimony, questioning,
Okay.
analyzing.
Very good. Very good. Who is it?
Ma'am, Prakriti.
Okay. All right. Great. So Kriti, it's Kriti, right?
Prakrutin.
Okay, all right. So that is what exactly we imply when we are talking about the given possibility associated with the given dimension of modernity. So yes, Reshmi is also saying the similar thing. So when something which is promoting the scientific temperament, logical thinking, all right. Good afternoon, all of you, all those students who have wished. Yes, all right. So ek bacha, I hope the one who was asking that has the class started can see that it has started. All right. So when we are talking about the given dimension, um, just a moment. Yeah. So when we are discussing about the given dimension associated with what is it all about, I hope all of you can connect that the dimension of modernity is associated with the temperament of questioning, the temperament of interrogating, the temperament of asking, and all those possibilities which help us to raise the right questions in the right frame. So when we are able to raise the right questions, when we are able to question, when we don't believe on the face value of the things, means as things are presented to us, we don't believe it as it is. It is then that we have that questioning mind, and with that questioning mind, we move towards modernity. Modernity does not imply living in the present times. Modernity does not imply necessarily modern tools, technology, and gadgets. Necessarily, I'm saying. Sometimes it may imply modern tools, technology, and gadgets. So, when we talk about modernity, that an idea is modern, a person is modern, what we imply to say that the person is not traditional. And what is the difference between tradition and modernity? So, tradition encourages you to follow beliefs without questioning them. So, when we are following without questioning, then you cannot be modern. When you follow something only after understanding the reasoning, only after understanding the logic, it is then that you become modern. And that's why yesterday I gave you the example of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, that he is considered as the modern man of India. Why modern man? He is not living in like 2025. He is considered as the modern man because he questioned the existing traditions and beliefs. Why? Why to follow child marriage? Why to follow sati? Why to follow exploitation of widows? So the man who will question why, the person who will question why, the logic behind anything and everything shall be considered as modern. So a modern person is a rational person, a logical person, a person guided by scientific temperament. What does the word scientific temperament mean or imply? So scientific temperament implies, yes, when you are living in a reason-based environment, when you're constantly logically questioning what's happening, why is it happening, how is it happening, it is then that modernity unfolds. Is it making sense? Yes? All right. So here, when we are talking about it, we all can see this. So modernity and social change in Europe and emergence of sociology, as we are starting with this. So I have given a basic general overview that social thought is as old as society itself. Yet sociology as a discipline did not emerge, okay, like a functional formal discipline dealing with sociology. It did not emerge immediately. It actually emerged later when the society underwent changes and when we wanted a scientific discipline to study the society and find the solutions, the problems, the miseries that the society was suffering from. Yesterday, I discussed about this from various perspectives. Let us explore them in a greater detail today. So it's saying that the social thought is as old as society itself. Yet the origin of sociology is traced back to 19th century Western Europe. So inquiry about society has been made by many people. I mean, when we can see that Arthashastra was being written by Chanakya, was he not inquiring about how to govern the society? How to get rid of corruption from the society, how to control and contain crime in society, he was. Ibn Khaldun, when he was inquiring about a similar, like we can say, insight in, we can say, Central Asia, he also was inquiring about a similar insight. Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, in ancient, we can say, Greece, Athens, they were also inquiring about a similar insight. How to understand the society better, how to live in the society in a better way, how to make the society more logical. So everyone was basically making a similar kind of inquiry per se, isn't it? I hope all of you are understanding this bit. So this is what we all can connect when we are talking about the same. So all of us can see that sociology, that is why it is called the child of the age of revolution. Why is it called as the child of age of revolution? Because it is during the 18th and 19th century. Rather, it unfolded from 17th century itself when we start talking about industrial revolution. So we can see that from the 18th century itself, a lot of changes started emanating, a lot of changes, they started emerging before all of us, right? And what were those changes when we talk about this age of revolution? Yes, people? Okay, so there is social change, economic change, and political change. So I would like to ask, what was the social change? So I remember the economic and the political change. And what was the third one? Okay, so people started challenging the authority of the Pope and they wanted a new political authority, right? All right, so that goes with political. So one is the political change. Another one is, yes, people?
French
Online?
Revolution.
Ma'am, intellectual change.
Okay, very good. So it was intellectual change. So the intellectual change were associated with the intellectual changes. They
Ma'am,
happened
thinkers.
after, yes, they happened after the period of Renaissance. And that is called as, those changes are referred as period of enlightenment. So I said there are three types of changes that occurred in Europe. One was the intellectual change, which is called the changes which occurred during the period of enlightenment. Has any one of you studied ethics previously? Okay, no? Okay, no problem. So when you will be studying ethics, you shall get exposed to this given possibility. All the thinkers who are associated with period of enlightenment, they are a part of your syllabus in GS paper 4 ethics. When you're studying about Hobbes, Locke, Immanuel Kant, okay, Rousseau, Voltaire, all these thinkers are the thinkers of period of enlightenment. So what are they talking about? They are talking about what should be the way to govern people. How can we probably organize the state? How can we probably go ahead with a new possibility of governing? All right. So when these thinkers, when these people, they start talking about the given possibilities, we all can reflect upon. Okay, it's just a moment. It's because of the wire that it's causing a trouble. But same so. Just अभी तो नया वाला भी खोल दिया वो वायर जो लगा है ना इंटरनेट का शायद उसके वजह से हाँ अब चलने लग गया पीछे वाला नहीं चल रहा था ओके ठीक है अभी स्टार्टिंग so we all can work towards this so when we are talking about the changes this age of revolution so this is age of revolution which is happening like we can consider just before the 19th century so here we can talk about the three types of revolution which I discussed yesterday so one I said was the intellectual revolution the second that I spoke of after the intellectual revolution, then I spoke of the political revolution, and then I spoke of the economic revolution, right? So, in terms of the intellectual, political, and economic, when we are talking about it, we can connect the three given subsegments. Okay. So, here, under the intellectual subdimension, we all can connect the possibilities with what? So that is the dimension which can be associated with the period of enlightenment. Okay, period of enlightenment. All right. You do get questions associated with the period of enlightenment and you can get it in short note form. That's what you can see. So All right. So this is how you can work. Oh, it's like working crazy on the borders. No problem. I'll just keep it in the center. So with political changes, I had discussed about the French Revolution. Let me keep it to the bottom. Okay. So we can talk about the French Revolution, and economic changes can be associated with industrial revolution. So here, when we are talking about these three revolutionary changes, they started impacting the society by and large. So we all can see that due to the social upheavals that were caused, yesterday I just discussed about it very briefly related to the same. So I discussed about it in this given dimension, that how the changes that unfolded during that time period, it started impacting the lives of the people. So the period of enlightenment is also called the age of reason. The key words that I'm underlining are the words that you have to remember at all times for your answer writing or for short note making. All right. So we all can just see this given dimension. Uh, All right. So all of you can see this given dimension. So period of enlightenment, this is associated with age of reason. The French Revolution, we all can see this is associated with the quest. Quest means trying to find out. So trying to find out how the political sovereignty ought to be there. And then we have the third one, that is industrial revolution, whereby we get into mass manufacturing due to factory based production. All right. So we need to explore these three given changes. So in the period of enlightenment, the thinkers, they started reflecting that what kind of changes need to be there, what kind of possibilities need to be there, based on which we all can reflect that we can reflect upon the society that we are stepping into, the kind of possibilities that we are going to unfold or unleash. So it is the period of enlightenment thinkers who actually paved the way for the society, that how decision making ought to be taken. So when you will be reflecting upon like Immanuel Kant, so Immanuel Kant is there in your GS paper 4 syllabus, and he is talking about deontological ethics. Now, these words can be new for you. Deontological ethics is something you don't need to write in sociology. Anything which is not required for your answer writing, I'm saving you from giving any such dictation. But yes, in GS paper 4, these words will come up again. So you can get pre-exposed to it. So if the words are new for you, you can just get exposed to it. You don't need to be under the pressure of remembering it for sociology per se. All right. If you see the previous year question paper of sociology, you see there is no single question related to Immanuel Kant in sociology. But you need to understand these thinkers, that what background they are creating. Okay. So this guy, Immanuel Kant, if I talk about him, so he was, when he was talking about deontological ethics, okay, deontological ethics. So when he was talking about deontological ethics, he was talking about deontology basically focuses on duty. Okay. Duty based means the goals are not so important as much as the duty per se. What is more important for every individual? For every individual, what is important? The duty. So the means, in other words, I can also say the means. I prefer the word duty because from deontology, remembering duty is easy. So DD, both are the same. Okay. So deontology focuses on duty or focuses on means. That we should at all times focus on the means rather than the goals. Many people focus only on the goals. By hook or by crook, if I'm attaining the goal, it's perfectly fine. But Immanuel Kant, he proposed this idea to the world. No, the goals should be important, but the means to achieve those goals are equally important. A similar idea was held by none other than Mahatma Gandhi. In India, Gandhian philosophy is connected to deontological ethics. So these people, they highlighted to the world the idea that the means to attain the goals are as should be as noble, are as important as the goals themselves. Simultaneously, we can see there were utilitarian thinkers. When I talk about the utilitarian thinkers, so under utilitarian thinkers, you have Bentham, you have John Stuart Mill. So these thinkers, they started talking about having those kind of goals, having those kind of, we can say, insights which are in the larger interest of the society. So anything which is in the larger interest of the society, benefiting like majority of the masses, that is what ought to be taken care of. We can see Thomas Hobbes. He said that rather than the king, it is the people whose general will should be respected. And every person puts their individual will into the general will. And the common general will should decide what is to be done for the larger interest of the society. Now, is this idea of general will not similar to that of democracy? And these are the ideas spoken when kings and queens are ruling. So that's why these thinkers are new or different from their times. They are new because they are questioning the tradition of monarchy. So they are proposing new thoughts, new ideas, new perspectives. So when we talk about the period of enlightenment, new ideas are proposed how the society ought to exist. I hope all of you are understanding. I'm just giving a sneak peek or a glimpse with respect to those ideas which are like going to be exposed to you in the topic of ethics as well. So, like with the advent of these kind of thinkers, we all can see that the period of enlightenment it starts unfolding, and bit by bit, we all can see that new possibilities they start like emerging before all of us. So I'll be just explaining all this in greater detail in this manner. This is the correlation between all these given we can say thinkers, but we'll get back to them first when we are able to discuss this. After this means the content which is here on the board, we'll get back to the diagrams or the flow charts and I'll explain them. The diagrams or the flowcharts are just to ease your understanding. Now, so with respect to this, when I'm talking about it, you can see the revolution, it transformed not only the European society, but it also transformed the rest of the world. All right. So how did it like transform the rest of the world? What is the logic? It's not given here. I want all of you to think. How did the changes that happened in Europe impact the rest of the world? Because I discussed it yesterday. Very good. Because of colonialism. So we could see there were French colonies, right? There were Portuguese colonies, French, Portuguese, Spanish colonies. So Spanish colonies were in Latin America. French colonies, a few of them were also in Latin America. In India, we could see Puducherry, right? Goa was Portuguese colony. Rest of India was British colony. You all can connect with that, right? So in different parts of the world, these people traveled and with them traveled those ideas. We can see a lot of Indian leaders, freedom fighters against all odds. They went to Europe to attain their higher education. Whether it was Patel or Nehru or Mahatma Gandhi, all the leading, we can say, political leaders of India, they went to Europe to attain their higher education. Ambedkar was a rare phenomena who went to Columbia also, and he went to London School of Economics also. So he went to both the continents, America as well as US. So we see that these thinkers, they are getting exposed to these ideas, Western ideas. Are you understanding this? So the Western ideas were not contained to West or they were not contained only to Europe. They also spread. And when they started spreading across the world, they started like, the global thinkers, the leaders to think and question. For example, in India, till the time the British rule was there, parallelly, we also had the princely states. Didn't we have that? So, if in 1857, if we would have attained independence, what would have been the order? Can you imagine that? क्या होता अगर 1857 में हमें आजादी मिल जाती तो क्या होता? Then monarchy would have continued because we had princely states. So we would have continued with monarchy. Why? Because that was the order which we were exposed to for governance, isn't it? So when our leaders, when our thinkers, they traveled to West, it is then that they realized that we don't need to necessarily get back to the monarchy or the monarchical form of government. Once the British leave, we can go ahead with a new pattern of governance, and that is democracy. And we can see that interim governments were formed during the British rule. Remember interim government in modern Indian history, you must have studied or you will be studying if you're a beginner. So the Indian leaders, rulers, masses, they started experimenting with the forms of democracy, patterns of governance. So it is then that when the British left in 1947, we did not get back to monarchy. We started with democracy, something which India did not have 200 years back or 300 years back. Can you understand that? So that's how it is written. That the revolutions transformed not only the European society, but also rest of the world as it came in contact with Europe. Is it now making sense to all of you? Yes. So I can explain all this because I don't have to dictate all this. You can now understand the ease that greater explanation and engagement of thinking can happen if we save our energy only and focus it only on discussion. Okay, now here, when we are talking about the same, the revolutions initiated a process of thinking about the society, particularly the consequences of revolutionary happenings. So what are the revolutions initiating? They are initiating what? They are initiating thinking about society. Which society should we live in? Which society should we exist in? What is the best way to have a society? In what ways the society should exist, what changes are necessary for our society. Those insights, they started cropping up with these revolutions, because revolutions will trigger large scale changes, massive changes. So with those large scale changes, people will start questioning what's happening, why is it happening, what should be done, right? Like these days we can see there is too much of exposure of drugs to the youth. When every young, I think every younger child, a child who's like in like a teenage or 20s, most of them, they know one or two people who take drugs, at least one or two people, whether in their hostel, whether they're like we can say batchmates, someone they can pinpoint, yeah, I know that person is infamous because that person takes drugs. It was not so rampant in our times. Today, we can see that, especially, I always say that in engineering hostels, students, 80% of them are exposed to some or the other form of drug, even if they are not a regular offender, but still, once in a while, they have tasted or tested something upon themselves. So, when this is happening in India at such a large scale, this is what? This is something which is impacting the youth. The social media is impacting the way a youth can engage. I mean, if you actually ration your timing 24 hours, how much time you spend on social media, you might think that I've just used the phone for 30 minutes only. But if you actually ration it, you'll be realizing that you're spending 6 to 7 hours on the phone knowingly unknowingly. So only when you learn how to ration your time that you become particular, okay, I'll just touch the phone to see the time or to probably see my messages, but during this and this slot of the day. That's it. I won't touch the phone unnecessarily or otherwise. All right. So when we are talking about such processes or such phenomena, we all can connect with this given possibility. And what is the possibility? The possibility associated with how we are thinking, how we are perceiving the reality per se. Okay, so we all can understand that when this Indian society is undergoing change right now, we will try to think how to motivate the youth to be more oriented to education, to be more oriented to creativity, to manage disciplining the timing, the day-to-day life better. China did it. You know what China did? It banned TikTok channels except 6 categories: science oriented videos, innovation and creativity related videos, or related to any walk of life, not necessarily science, innovation of any kind, art and culture related videos, sports related videos, discipline related videos, and motivation related videos. That's it. Only 6 category of videos are visible in China with respect to TikTok. All those like useless, wasteful videos related to ASMR, that someone is eating and gorging food in huge quantities, or someone is cutting something and it is very soothing to see the things being sliced and cut. And trickle by trickle, minutes by minutes, hours by hours of our life is taken away. Useless videos, cringe videos. You all know all those brain rot videos. I think your generation is quite exposed to all those brain rot videos also. So those brain rot and cringe videos, it's not available in China, but they will create platforms so that the rest of the world is watching. Dumbing and numbing of senses of the youth. And this is a massive change that's happening in India. So how can we make the youth titillated, motivated, and encourage the youth towards a meaningful change, a meaningful orientation? So whenever a society is undergoing a massive revolution, revolution is rapid and wholesome change, exhaustive overhauling of the society. That is what revolution implies. It can be intellectual, it can be economic, it can be political, any kind of change per se. So when the society was undergoing such a rampant change, like during that time period in Europe, people started thinking that what kind of society do we need to have? So we need to understand the kind of changes that were happening. Let us enlist them bit by bit. So economically, if we talk about it, so economically, we can see industrial revolution was happening. It was initiating what? The process of urbanization. So what is the change? Let us understand that. So this is process of urbanization. Urbanization will create several social problems. What kind of social problems can you connect with when we are talking about urbanization? People? Okay, development of slums, different types of crime,
More job
pollution,
creation.
job. Okay, yes, new types of jobs will be created. Yes, what else? The labor class, we can see the plight of the labor class will unfold. Yes, migration will also be. Rabi, what are you sending at that time? I'm transcribing this call with my like AI extension. Why? Why are you doing that? You want transcribing of this call? I'll do the transcribing for you. But you don't do all these extracurricular activities because in Zoom I have the opportunity to transcribe and set the transcription also to all of you. So if you need it, let me know. I'll download it and I'll send it to you individually. पर एक्स्ट्रा कर तब मत करो, पढ़ाई कर से पढ़ाई पे ध्यान, ठीक है? 2 बार मेरे को ट्रांसक्रिप्शन वाला मैसेज आ चुका है, तो सेकंड टाइम मैं टोक रही हूँ नाउ। जनरली शुरू में होता है, बच्चा नर्वस रहता है कहीं कुछ छूट ना जाए। अरे नहीं छूटेगा, सिंपल सा है कॉन्सेप्ट। पढ़ने के लिए इस टॉपिक से आपको मोस्टली 10 मार्कर क्वेश्चन आते हैं, 20 मार्कर तभी आते हैं जब कंबाइन होते हैं, जैसे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन, फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन मिला के क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं, then only it becomes a 20 marker question. Else, most of the times there'll be 10 marker question. How did the industrial revolution lead to emergence of sociology? Or how did French revolution lead to the emergence of sociology? Or how does the period of enlightenment contribute to the emergence of sociology? Like that. Like when I say 150 words, that means barely 2 sides of a page, right? इतना ही समझना है, ज्यादा नहीं आपको घिसना है, लेकिन उसमें फिर शॉर्टकट्स नहीं करना है. You have to understand. Anyway, so I was talking about urbanization. So urbanization led to several social problems that we all are exposed to, right? So what are those social problems? So one of your friends said, ma'am, different types of crimes. We all could see there is urban pollution that occurs. We also can see the problem of slums or ghettoization. We can see the breakdown of the family from joint family, which was living in the rural areas or the feudal society. People started migrating and reaching the urban areas, and now we have nuclear families. In nuclear families, we can see there will be new types of problems: isolation, alienation, right? Lack of like extended support of other family members, but at the same time, a lot of individualism. I want to earn. I want to have this. I want to possess this. I want to own this. So individualism will rise. Capitalism, which will come due to industrialization. Industrialization gives boost to capitalism, and capitalism will give boost to consumerism. The more you consume, the more the capitalist will produce. So the capitalist will want you to consume more. And when you will consume more, what will happen? Yes, when you consume more, what happens? More production will take place. And for you to consume more, you should not focus on your joint family, on your relatives, on your village people. जैसे होता है ना, होता है गांव का भाई है, तो मेरे गांव का भाई अगर नहीं ठीक से खा पा रहा है, जी पा रहा है, तो धिक्कार है मेरा करोड़ कमाने का। बेहतर है कि मैं बांट के खाऊं, बांट कर जी, यही है ना टेंडेंसी। तो जब आपके अंदर ये फीलिंग ऑफ फ्रेटर्निटी रहेगा, ब्रदरहुड रहेगा, आप लोगों के साथ बांट कर खाएंगे, बांट कर जिएंगे। तो जब आप लोगों के साथ बांट कर खा रहे हैं, बांट कर जी रहे हैं, आप लोगों के साथ एक इक्विटेबल शेयरिंग कर रहे हैं, तो उससे क्या इमर्ज होता है? जब हम इक्विटेबल शेयरिंग करते हैं, तो उससे क्या इमर्ज होता है? सेंस ऑफ फ्रेटर्निटी, ब्रदरहुड, कम्युनिटी फीलिंग। जो कम्युनिटी फीलिंग में जिएगा वो इंडिविजुअलिज्म नहीं रखेगा। मान लीजिए अगर किसी को अगर मार्केट बोल रही, कह रहे तुमको ये स्टाइल का जूता होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए, और अगर उस इंसान के अंदर में है कि मेरे ताऊ जी रिटायर कर गए, उनके पास नए जूते नहीं, मेरी बुआ जो है शी हैज बिकम अ विडो एंड उनके बच्चों के पास जूते नहीं, और ऐसे ऐसे लोगों के पास जूते नहीं है, तो मैं कैसे 5 पेयर्स ऑफ जूते लेकर घूमूं? हाउ कैन आई मूव और रोम अराउंड विद 5 पेयर्स ऑफ शूज? दैट विल बी सो अनएथिकल. So first I have to purchase for everyone. And then if I'm left with a bit of surplus, then I should purchase for myself. So then that individual will not be engaging in purchasing 5 or 6 or 10 pairs of shoes. अब बात समझ में आई? तो कंज्यूमरिज्म आपके अंदर आए उसके लिए क्या जरूरी है? इंडिविजुअलिज्म आपके अंदर आए, और आपके अंदर इंडिविजुअलिज्म आएगा तभी आप क्या करोगे? ज्यादा से ज्यादा कंज्यूम करोगे. तो कैपिटलिज्म जो कि इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन का बाई प्रोडक्ट है, तो कैपिटलिज्म विल गिव बूस्ट टू इंडिविजुअलिज्म. अच्छा, जब तक इंडिविजुअल इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है वो 5 जूते नहीं खरीदे, है ना? Till the time an individual is not feeling important in himself or herself, the person is not going to purchase 5 pairs of shoes, right? So in that situation, what we have to encourage, what do we have to motivate the individual towards? हमें क्या चीज की तरफ उस इंडिविजुअल को मोटिवेट करना है, क्या करना है उस इंडिविजुअल के साथ? So we have to motivate that individual, or we have to encourage that individual towards what? Towards becoming more self-centered. How can we make that individual more self-centered, which suits the market economy of capitalism and individualism? How can we make that? So politics of the day will also support. So the politics of the day will say, you are important. Your vote is important. You have your own individual opinion. You shall have liberty. You shall have equality. During the times of monarchy, there was nothing like equality. Individual opinion was not important. Whatever the king said, that used to happen, right? In Europe, other than the king, there was the authority of the church as well, the clergy. So whatever the pope, the bishop, the archbishop, the cardinal used to say, that used to be important for the society. So authority was fairly divided, but it was not with the masses. Authority was with the king or the church. Are you understanding that? So for the first time, you are giving authority to the individual. You are important. That's why they emphasized on ideas of equality, freedom or liberty, fraternity. So when there is equality, just think about it. When there is equality and freedom, there will be democracy. Can you connect now? So equality and freedom cannot exist in the absence of democracy. So democracy is in favor of capitalism. Democracy will give boost to capitalism. So politics and economy, they are going hand in hand. And that's why so many changes are occurring in Europe simultaneously. Political change, economic change, and intellectuals are supporting that change. Thinkers are supporting that change. Rousseau, Voltaire, Locke, Mill, all these thinkers, when you read about them, so they are supporting the change. So the intellectual environment is heated up, political environment is heated up, economic environment is heated up. So wholesome change is unfolding, right? Okay, anyway, so industrial revolution is happening, French revolution is happening, and the intellectual, the French, and the industrial. The 3 types of changes will unfold. All right. So we will be reflecting upon these 3 changes. Yes, Prakriti, you want to ask something? Please go ahead.
Ma'am, how does democracy give rise to capitalism? I couldn't get that.
Democracy doesn't give rise to capitalism. Capitalism motivates democratic ideology. So the capitalists, yesterday I discussed this, that the capitalists were the ones who were also funding the thinkers. They were the ones who were supporting the thinkers and their ideas. Because they realized, the capitalists realized, that if there is the rule of the king, and the king is deciding where the person can go, where the company can go and do the business, the company cannot profit, because in the end of the day, it is the king who's regulating the company, who can make the new laws. So the company owners, the capitalists, they realized we can govern the best. We can do the best business only when the king is not there and there is democratic rule. So that's why the capitalists, the industrialists, they started supporting the thinkers of the day who are talking about liberal ideas. Yesterday, I discussed what is liberal idea, right? So they started supporting liberal ideas, liberalism. When we talk about liberalism, yesterday I discussed about it in greater detail with all of you. So I discussed what is liberalism. Remember, I said that when we are talking about the idea of liberal, so liberal, when we are talking about it in economic terms, what is being liberal? Okay, so you will encourage privatization or private economy. Yes. Okay, all right. So you will encourage free trade, regulation free
Free
market. So we say
competition.
laissez, yeah.
Free competition.
Yes, free competition. So laissez faire is regulation free market. Okay. So regulation free market. What else? Yes, we also talk about ease of doing business. Along with ease of doing business, we also talk about when we are saying regulation free market. So then we are also talking about free competition. So with bit of we can say rules and regulation, we are encouraging free competition. So this is something which we all can connect with when we are discussing. Yes, taxes will be somewhere eased. Either you will make a tax-free zone or you will just minimize the taxes. So border-free tax and all kinds of ease of existence. So that is economical. But when we are talking about liberal politics, politically, what is liberal politics? It will promote democracy. It will promote secularism. All right. So it will promote secularism, tolerance, right? When we are talking about liberal politics, it will talk about equality or parity, right? So, all right. So, yes, it will talk about freedom. So, it will talk about freedom for people, liberty, their rights, freedom. It will talk about the rights. So when we are talking about liberal economy, liberal politics, we need to understand how this word liberal comes into existence. So the thinkers will be talking about these areas. In the domain of economy, we will see Adam Smith, right? Adam Smith. And in the domain of politics, we will be seeing thinkers like, yes, thinkers like, I just spoke about them, J.S. Mill. We talk about like Rousseau. We spoke about Voltaire. Yes, we can talk about like Hobbes. We can talk about Locke. We can talk about Kant. All these people, right? So there will be thinkers in the domain of politics and there will be thinkers in the domain of economy. And they will be talking about promoting liberal ideology. And this liberal ideology is a byproduct of capitalist economy. It is the byproduct of industrial economy. Are you understanding that? Yeah. So the capitalist, or we can say the industrial economy gives boost to liberal ideology. पहले भी था, आज भी है. In today's time also, in the era of globalization, when you'll be connecting it with GS paper 1, impact of globalization on Indian society, you'll be connecting this. So whenever there will be rise of capitalism, industrialization, the liberal ideology will get a boost. It will get a push. And the liberal ideology can be connected to the economy as well as the politics of the day. And because it is connected to economy and politics, it is going to impact the way people think intellectually. All right? Understanding that, everyone? ठीक है. तो इस स्मूथ सेलिंग के साथ हम लोग पहले यहाँ आ जाते हैं. तो हम लोग देखते हैं कि बहुत सारा चेंजेस होने लगता है यूरोप. Without underlining, just an overview has been given, then we get into the details of what unfolds. So here you can see, so urbanization in its turn, what is it creating? So urbanization in its turn, we can say it is creating many social problems. French Revolution, it made people to rethink that what form of government and practice of democracy ought to be there. So thus there were changes all around, all kinds of changes, all around changes in economy, in polity, in social sphere of living. So industrialization, urbanization, capitalism, all this is happening. The central concepts associated with society, like what are the central concepts of the society? So in the domain of, like, let us say religion, community, power, wealth, everyone started debating and discussing that what kind of religion should we follow? What kind of community should we follow? What kind of power structure should be there? How one should be owning wealth or controlling wealth? Like, for example, in terms of religion, people who questioned the traditional way of service, sharing, like, fearing the church, being governed completely by the church, people who were questioning that order, those groups were led by Protestant thinkers. There were different Protestant thinkers who emerged in Europe during these times. So you'll be finding Martin Luther King, so Lutherans, okay, Calvinists. So there are different types of thinkers who emerged this time period, and they try to present a liberal version of Christianity. The liberal version of Christianity is popularly called Protestants. समझ में आ रहा है? तो religion में भी change आता है. तो जैसे कैथोलिक, अगर कैथोलिसिज्म और प्रोटेस्टेंटिज्म का आपको बेसिक डिफरेंस नहीं पता है, प्रैक्टिसेस में डिफरेंस, बेसिक रिलीजन सेम है, but the core practices differ. For example, in and this background information is not required per se for exam, but you should in general, क्योंकि आगे चल के रिलीजन एंड सोसाइटी में भी टकराएगा. प्रोटेस्टेंटिज्म, ये वर्ड जब हम मैं वेबर को डिस्कस करूंगी, मैक्स वेबर एज अ थिंकर, देयर आल्सो यू विल गेट एक्सपोज्ड टू दिस. So when we are talking about it, you can just connect with this given idea. Probably I can just share it in this manner. It so happened that when earlier the church was dominating the game, at that time period, you could see that the priest also had to be a celibate. You understand a celibate, a person who's not married and not getting into any kind of relationship with any another human being. So priest had to be celibate and devote his life totally to the service of God, service of church. So that was the role of a priest. And there were order or hierarchy of power amongst the priests as well. That's how you all can see. Now, what happens in this scenario that we all can see that when the priests, they are taking control and command of the situation, we all can see that they were they were also facilitating a lot of social cultural activities in the given area, and different types of activities were duly performed. So when we can say Protestantism emerged, it said no, you don't necessarily need a priest to connect with God. Your connection with the God is very personal. No priest, no human being on this earth can tell you whether you are the chosen one, the loved one of the God or not. So the only way to prove that whether you can probably be close to God is a one-to-one relationship with God and doing charity. Love people, respect people, serve people. So you don't need a priest in between as a mediator. In fact, for marriage also, you don't need a priest. You don't need to be in church. If you are in a pressing condition where you are not able to reach out to the church, then you can probably have 5 friends sitting in a library, reading out the Bible, and in the witness of those 5 people, one person is holding the hand of the other person, and they pronounce both of them, the person who is acting as a priest pronounces both of them as wife and husband. So a marriage can take place even in a library. So Protestantism was quite revolutionary. It changed the way the popular institutions and interactions were taking place. If a person is becoming a priest in a Protestant church, it's not necessary the person to be a celibate. The person can be married, can have family, can have children, and yet serve the Lord. Are you understanding that? So it's totally different in approach. That's how we see that the central concepts which were governing the society, like religion, underwent change. You can see the community, the way the people were existing together, and community is now getting connected to wealth as well. So we see the rise of socialism, which was counter to capitalism. So socialism said, you can see socialism when we are talking about it, 19th century, we can think of Karl Marx, Marx's ideology, and his idea of communism. Communism was so idealistic, it never happened in the world. Communism को इसीलिए कहा जाता है, it is a utopian idea. Utopian means it's so good that it cannot be true, too good to be true, too perfect to be real. Too perfect to be real, because it believed in the ultimate goodness of a human being. So it considered a communist society. ये कार्ल मार्क्स को पढ़ाते वक्त ये वर्ड दिया है, अभी सिर्फ एक्सपोज्ड होते रहे, अच्छा ये भी वर्ड, ये भी वर्ड, ये भी वर्ड, और डरिएगा मत कि अरे ये वर्ड लिखा नहीं तो छूट गया, मेरा नहीं छूटेगा। अगर कोई वर्ड आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है और मुझे पता है कि इंपॉर्टेंट है और फ्यूचर में नहीं आएगा तो मैं लिखवा दूं। सो राइट नाउ आई एम जस्ट एक्सपोजिंग यू टू दोज वर्ड्स। सो कम्युनिज्म, कार्ल मार्क्स बोलते हैं कि कम्युनिज्म एक ऐसी सोसाइटी होगी जहां स्टेट की जरूरत ही नहीं होगी, स्टेटलेस सोसाइटी। Each human being will contribute as per his or her might, mental, physical acumen, and take as much as is needed. And in that society, everyone will stand for everyone. Everyone will serve everyone. Everyone will work as per their potential and take only as per their need. So such a stateless society is called communist society. वर्ल्ड के किसी भी कंट्री में कम्युनिज्म आ ही नहीं पाया, because none of the socialist countries could become free from governments. That's why just by naming Communist Party of Russia, Communist Party of China, or Communist Party of India, or Communist Party of Estonia, Latvia, anything, you don't become a communist country. समझ में आया? ये सारे कंट्री बेसिकली क्या है, अगर मैं करेक्ट टर्म यूज करूं पॉलिटिकली, तो दे आर बेसिकली सोशलिस्ट, सोशलिस्ट कंट्री। क्यों? क्योंकि स्टेट सारे पावर और अथॉरिटी को गवर्न कर रहा है। पब्लिक जो है, आम जो मासेस है, दे आर गेटिंग पब्लिक फैसिलिटीज लाइक हेल्थ केयर, एजुकेशन, ऑल दीज आर प्रोवाइडेड बाय द स्टेट। इट इज मोस्टली फ्री, और इफ इट इज नॉट फ्री देन इट इज सब्सिडाइज्ड। गेटिंग इट? सो दैट इज सोशलिस्ट। तो एक तरफ एक सोसाइटी कह रही कि वेल्थ शुड बी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड बिटवीन एवरीवन, द वेल्थ शुड बिलोंग टू द स्टेट, द वेल्थ शुड बिलोंग टू द कम्युनिटी। And on the other hand, there is another society which is capitalist, where private property exists. Someone is rich and someone is poor and someone is middle class. So that's how we can see that all these massive revolutions and changes, it shifted the nature of the society, the way the society existed, the way religion existed, community existed, power existed, or wealth existed. Can you understand that? Does the sentence make sense to all of you? Are you understanding this? तो सोसाइटी में हर लेवल पे चेंज हुआ, और इस तरह से वेल्थ का शेयरिंग और बेयरिंग हमें देखने को इस फॉर्म में मिला। Fine. So we all can see that the contrast between present and past seemed to be stark, because earlier there was monarchy and today we could see there was democracy. I mean, the governance of the people. And in certain parts of the world, not only the democracy, but we also could see the socialist form of government. Property shared by all, property owned by the state, the notion of private property constantly getting challenged, right? So that's how we all could see. So the contrast between present and past became quite stark, the way the past was existing and the way the present is existing. Past had joint family, present had nuclear family as well. Past had feudal economy, agrarian economy, present had bulk production, and it was industrial economy. Past had agrarian economy whereby you were producing only for consumption, not for the markets. And the capitalist economy was only producing for the market, not necessarily for self-consumption. अगर किसी की साबुन की फैक्ट्री तो इसलिए थोड़ी लगा है कि वही सारा साबुन यूज करे, बल्कि वो उतना यूज ही नहीं कर पाएगा। तो साबुन वो किस लिए बना रहा है? Why is the person manufacturing soaps or bars of soap? For the market. So the industrial economy was operating only for the market. So there was massive change, overhaul change in every walk of life. Stark contrasts, or we can say opposite forces or possibility of completely different existence emerged. And in this backdrop, sociology emerges. What is sociology? So this discipline is constantly trying to cope up with the social crisis that the society was like undergoing. In this, I gave you the name of a thinker yesterday. Who was the thinker?
Ma'am, is there even any social economy or social country exist right now? Because the way things are going, I mean, the rich getting richer and the bulk production that you mentioned already, it means that the economy either mixed or either fully capitalist, right?
Oh yes, so very true. That's why we say that China is economically quite capitalist in nature and politically it is socialist in nature. So in Russia also we can see Putin has so much of private property, from private island to private jets to whatnot. He is like not only the richest man in Russia, but he is probably one of the richest people in the world. So when we talk about the idea of private property, yes, that's so very true, and rightly pointed that even in like socialist countries, we can see that economy is becoming quite bent towards capitalism, and only politically they are remaining socialist in nature in terms of voting, in terms of power dynamics, one party system, etc. All right, so I asked something. So who was the thinker who spoke about sociology as a discipline which could help us tackle social crisis? कल डिस्कस किया था सबसे पहले थिंकर जिन्होंने इसके बारे में सोचा.
Saint Simon.
Very good. So first person who spoke of it was Saint Simon. Who was he? He was a
French philosopher.
नहीं. Saint Simon was not a philosopher.
He was a
Ma'am,
physicist.
teacher of
And he was a physicist.
Yes, he was a physicist. So Saint Simon was a physicist. I told you वो physics के professor थे. So a physicist who spoke of the fact that the way we have principles of physics, theory of physics, law of physics, and through the laws of physics, we can solve the physical world, the problems and challenges of the material and physical world. In the similar manner, we can have science of society. And the science of society can help us study the problems of the society and solve the miseries, the challenges of the society. Right? I hope all of you can understand that. So when he actually spoke of this fact that, like, we can go ahead with a possibility whereby we can solve the crises, the miseries of the society, we can actually overcome the challenges of the society through this given possibility. We all can see that it is through that given dimension that the path for like the emergence of sociology, or the path for a discipline which could try to understand what problems society is undergoing and how to solve those problems, it came into existence. Everyone is understanding this bit, right? So when we are talking about this given possibility, we all can see that अब यहाँ पर आपको सेंट साइमन का नाम नीचे आएगा, अभी एकदम इमीडिएट नहीं आएगा, ये तो बैकग्राउंड के सारे थिंकर्स हैं. So हम लोग देखेंगे कि it is Saint Simon who's talking about this given possibility. Okay, so we need a science for society which can help us solve the crises of the society. It aimed to provide solution to the social crisis. What social crisis? A massive overhauling, the massive change that the society is under. तो जो समाज में एकदम रैम्पेंट चेंजेस हो रहा है, एग्जॉस्टिव चेंजेस हो रहा है, उसको हम आसानी से क्या कर सकते हैं? रेगुलेट कर सकते हैं, कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. ये बात कौन कह रहा है? सेंट साइमन कह रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर जब हम और आगे बढ़ते हैं तो हम देखते हैं पीरियड ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट में क्या होता है. सो यूरोप इट अंडरवेंट सेवरल चेंजेस व्हिच लेड टू द इमर्जेंस ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी. And what are these several changes when we talk about it? So the period of history explains it. अब यहाँ पे ये देखिए बैकग्राउंड है, एनलाइटनमेंट नहीं हो रहा है, इसका बैकग्राउंड है. We talk about 1st century to 12th century AD as dark ages. मैंने आपको कल ही इसका बैकग्राउंड दिया. इंडिया को डार्क एजेस नहीं कहा जाता है, एशिया को नहीं बोला जाता. In Asian societies, we were not suffering from dark ages. This is the time period when we are reflecting upon the implementation of the Upanishadic philosophy. Upanishads, which are very exhaustive in philosophical inquiry, that what is the right way to be, what is discipline, what is duty, what is dharma, or we can say righteous path. Okay, at the same time we can see the Buddhist philosophy was in existence and it was implemented across Asia, and Buddhism further developed into other sub branches and forms with the emergence of new thinkers like Zen philosophy, like Taoism. Okay, so you'll be seeing that like Confucianism. So when we talk about dark ages, please understand it is exclusive to Europe. It is not something which now when you'll read European philosophers, thinkers, they will be saying the world was in the dark ages between 1st to 12th century. Then the European thinkers are blamed for this kind of language. So please don't talk about the world, talk about your part of the world and your area. Don't generalize the world on the basis of what was happening in Europe. Are you understanding this? So during this time period, you see philosophically, intellectually, India or other parts of Asia was quite enriched. So during this time period, we see that logic, questioning, modernity was massively questioned. So this is the time period when we are talking about it. When I was yesterday discussing about, like, if you remember Copernicus, when I was talking about Galileo Galilei, all these people were getting punished. And punished for what? For scientific acumen, for questioning, for reasoning. All right. Then after Dark Ages comes the period of Renaissance. इसको Renaissance भी कुछ लोग बोलते हैं. So period of Renaissance, this is between 14th to 17th century. Bit by bit, classical unfolding of knowledge, wisdom, it starts happening. During this time period, nature loving. During this time period, humanitarian concerns, what should be there, what ought to be there, metaphysical inquiries, it started happening in Europe. Okay, and we can see after this time period comes the period of enlightenment. So after the 17th century, like mid 17th century onwards, we can say that the period of enlightenment emerges, and this encourages the question, the temperament of questioning, the scientific inquiry. It starts here. There were several agents of change. When I say several agents of change, so first agent is scholars, then scientists. Under scholars, I have given you like names of the scholars. For example, Dante. So Dante, he has written Divine Comedy. Erasmus, he has written In the Praise of Folly. इसको आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. As it is खा जाना है. रट लेना है. There's no shortcut to it. दो तीन नाम भी याद रहेगा, काम हो जाएगा. ठीक है? So suppose if you get a question of 150 words, that how did the period of enlightenment encourage the emergence of sociology as a discipline? So first 75 words goes to what is period of enlightenment and who are the agents of change in the period of enlightenment. तो पहले तो 75 वर्ड उसी में जाए, तो उसमें आपको सब कैटेगरीज खोलना हो. So what are the sub categories? The scholars. So under the scholars there are different types of scholars. There are littérateurs. We can see like Dante is a littérateur. Littérateur समझते हो? जो बंदा लिटरेचर पर काम कर, उसको लिटरेचर बोलते हैं. ठीक है? So we have Dante. Dante is writing Divine Comedy. Erasmus in the Praise of Folly. We can see Montaigne. He is writing Esaias, What Do I Do? Thomas More, he is writing Utopia. All right. Then we have scientists. So from geocentrism to heliocentrism. Yesterday I discussed this term. What is geocentrism? Yes, all the planets are revolving around the Earth. Geo means Earth. Geocentrism. Earth is in the center. So from geocentrism, we move to heliocentrism. Helios is sun. So the sun is in the center. All the other planets are revolving around it. Then we have Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon, he is considered the father of empiricism. Okay. So all of us can see that in this manner, when we are talking about agents of change, so there are scholars, there are scientists who are facilitating the change. Then who all are there with respect to the change? So we can see there are religious reformers, there are political philosophers, there are French revolutionary thinkers. All these are agents of change. Understanding that? सबका नाम नहीं रटना है, दो नाम भी याद है, more than enough. ठीक है? So religious reformers, I was talking about Protestantism, remember? बोला था ना? Protestantism किसको change किया? Christianity को. Rigid form of Christianity. What is the rigid and old school Christianity referred as? Catholicism. And what is the liberal Christianity? Protestantism. तो मैंने आपको बताया था Martin Luther King, याद है? तो Martin Luther King, he is a German monk. Then we can see Calvin. So Calvinist, he is a French theologist. Okay. And these people are paving the way for Protestantism. ठीक है? ये Calvin जो है ना, इनका नाम फिर से आएगा. कब आएगा? मैक्स वेबर. जब मैक्स वेबर को एज अ थिंकर पढ़ेंगे ना, तो हम देखेंगे यही कैल्विन से इंस्पायर्ड कौन है? मैक्स वेबर की मम्मी. और मैक्स वेबर की मम्मी इतनी इंस्पायर्ड है तो मैक्स वेबर पर भी उसका असर पड़ता है. आगे चलकर जाने. बस ये याद रखना, ये नाम सब थोड़ा थोड़ा हल्का फुल्का याद. Yes. Regulation doesn't come in the vacuum. First, a problem will come and then the solution will come. If sociology is a solution, then the problems will come before it. And the problems will come because of the changes. So when there is massive overhauling of the society, massive changes undergoing in the society, so change is not always pleasant. Certain changes are ugly. And those thinkers will reflect upon, oh my God, what ugliness is emerging, what problem is emerging. So those people who will be troubled and traumatized by those changes, which are ugly in nature, they'll try to solve it. And when they'll try to solve it in a formal manner, through a discipline, that is how they will require a discipline which can study the society and find solutions for the society. And that's how sociology will emerge. ठीक है? Okay. तो अब यहाँ पर जब हम देखते हैं, as all of you can see, so at this time, the Protestantism, they spoke of having only one scripture. They talk about justification through faith, and they spoke of universal priesthood of believers. ठीक है? Universal priesthood मतलब कोई भी priest बन सकता है. You don't need to be like labeled as the chosen one, go for celibate and all that stuff. Nothing of that. इसीलिए आप देखोगे ना कि 18th सेंचुरी के बाद जितने भी कैपिटलिस्ट इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट यूरोप में क्रिश्चियनिटी फॉलो करेंगे वो सारे प्रोटेस्टेंट. And that's why Protestantism spread like anything in Europe, because Protestantism was facilitating ease of business. So a lot of people in Europe who started following like Christianity, or who were followers of Christianity, they switched to Protestantism because it eased the possibility of doing business. ठीक है? Keywords, अब मान लीजिए आप नोट्स बना रहे हैं, तो आपको नोट्स बनाने में क्या क्या रखना चाहिए? तो अब देखो, अगर मैं शुरू से बता रहा हूँ, तो अगर मान लो मैं मॉडर्निटी कर रही हूँ, तो सबसे पहले मॉडर्निटी, मैं एक लाइन में मॉडर्निटी को डिफाइन कर दूँ. ठीक है? मॉडर्निटी को डिफाइन करने के बाद वी विल डिस्कस दैट सोशियोलॉजी इज कॉल्ड द चाइल्ड ऑफ एज ऑफ रेवोल्यूशन. रेवोल्यूशन 3 टाइप्स के हैं, ये 3 वर्ड्स जाएंगे: एनलाइटनमेंट, फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन, इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन. Then I'll talk about the idea of liberal. What is liberal? What is being liberal? Liberalism. ये background में जाएगा, so that anytime the word liberal comes close to me, like in present time, it comes through LBG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Zation means process. Process. Okay. So process of becoming liberal, process of becoming private, process of becoming global. Whenever the word zation will be there, zation means process. So the process of becoming liberal. So today we use the word liberalization. But in 18th century, 17th century, the word which was popular was liberalism. Ism means ideology. Ideology of being liberal. So the ideology of being liberal was connected to economic sphere also and political sphere also. Okay. Then I discussed with all of you, if I talk about the keywords, then I started, this was the overview. So we don't touch the overview. We straight away move to the next subsegment, that is, ma'am, it seems your camera is turned off. No, Umer, I'm visible to everyone. It seems you have like touched some button because of which the camera is turned off for you. मेरे एंड से सब ठीक चल रहा है, या तो तुम्हारा हो सकता है इंटरनेट स्लो होगा, तो उस वजह से मैं दिख नहीं रही हूँ, बट इधर से बिल्कुल नीट चल रहा है. Now, so when we are talking about this, we all can connect it with the period of enlightenment. अब वो 3 आपने लिख लिया, 3 के बाद immediate enlightenment लिखिएगा. Enlightenment लिखने का लिखिएगा, prior to it there was dark ages and renaissance. Dark ages 1st to 12th, renaissance 14 to 17. फिर आ जाएगा enlightenment पे. So enlightenment is what? Enlightenment is the intellectual enquiry which was made due to several changes. The agents of enlightenment, अगर मैं कह रही हूँ, the agents of enlightenment, so first is the scholars, second is the scientists. Scholars में एक दो का नाम याद रख लीजिएगा, जैसे दांते, टॉमस पूर, जो भी आपको इजी लगे नाम याद कर लीजिएगा. फिर साइंटिस्ट पे आप जैसे फ्रांसिस बेकन को याद कर लीजिएगा. उसके बाद आप रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स पे आइए, रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स में मार्टिन लूथर किंग को, कैल्विन को याद कर लीजिएगा. Then come to political philosophers. Under political philosophers, इसमें तो लिस्ट बहुत लंबी जा सकती है. You can talk about anyone. Easy ones में जैसे मैकियावेली आपके एथिक्स में भी है, तो मैकियावेली आप शायद नाम सुने भी हो. कई बार बोला जाता है किसको, एरिस्टो को क्या बोलते हैं. When we talk about चाणक्य, तो चाणक्य और कौटिल्य, he is referred as Machiavelli of the East. But it is only when Weber came and he studied Chanakya or Kautilya's philosophy very thoroughly, he said that, oh my God, like Chanakya, if we are comparing him with Machiavelli, Machiavelli is nowhere close to what Chanakya is. He said that Chanakya is far more shrewd, far more, like, his statescraft the theory and the approaches that he discusses, the details that he discusses, Machiavelli is nowhere close to it. So the kind of regime and the kind of governance that should be there and the way the iron hand can be used, Machiavelli is not even like close to thinking about it. Chanakya मुझे अभी भी याद है उनका one of the punishments for corruption and crime was कि खौलते तेल की कढ़ाई में इंसान को पकौड़े की तरह फ्राई कर. It was one of those punishments. Okay, there were several punishments. There are 40 types of punishments that he prescribed for 40 types of corruption and crime. लेकिन जो एक्सट्रीम था वो वही था जो हेल में है ना कि एकदम खौलते तेल के कढ़ाई में फ्राई कर दो पकौड़े की तरह इंसान का. तो फ्रेटर्स पकाने की बात कर देते हैं, जो कि बात ये सब पढ़कर हम लोग के तो आप देखेंगे हेल का जो डिस्क्रिप्शन है, तो हेल के डिस्क्रिप्शन में इंडिया में इंडियन फिलोसफी में जो एंशिएंट टेक्स्ट्स हेल का डिस्क्रिप्शन देते तो उसमें ये सब डिस्क्रिप्शन देते हैं. यहाँ लोग पकौड़ा खाता था तो ऐसे ही इमेजिन क्या उंगली चढ़ जाए तो शरीर ही चला जाए तो फिर ये सब सोचते तो हेल में यही होता होगा, इंसान को ऐसे ऐसे करके फ्राई करता हो. तो ये सब आइडियाज हमारे पास पहले से था. क्या हुआ, उसको डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कर दिया किसने, चाणक्य ने. ठीक है. एंड दैट वाज नॉट जस्ट डॉक्यूमेंटेड, ही आल्सो केम अप विद सम अदर आइडियाज लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल स्ट्रिंग्स ऑफ पर्ल थियरी व्हिच इज यूज्ड इन आईआर. Okay, so the Rajmandala theory, it is called the Rajmandala theory by Chanakya. So when we talk about him and when we talk about Machiavelli, you can see that there are certain comparatives. They both are right wingers, but at the same time, and they both support authoritarian government. But at the same time, you will see Machiavelli, though इनको connect किया जाता है चाणक्य से, but when you actually read both, you realize that who becomes the boss in the situation. Anyway, so Machiavelli is an Italian patriot, as you can see, and he wanted a all-powerful centralized monarch. इनका ये जो book है ना, Prince, in this it's a very thin, small book, which is nothing but a list of do's and don'ts which a young prince should follow when he climbs up to power and becomes a king. So they are the do's and don'ts for a prince. He says that a prince should have the quality of both the fox as well as the lion. So shrewdness of the fox and the bravery and courage of the lion. Because the lion has the problem of becoming slumpant, slow, lazy. The fox is shrewd, sly, and alert at all times. So the bravery and the wisdom, the depth and compassion of the lion, but at the same time, the shrewdness and sharpness of the fox, and never trusting the people. Never ever trusting the people. He doesn't talk about having faith in people. Machiavelli. Okay, anyway, so those extra insights I gave you about Machiavelli. Then you have Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes, when we talk about him as a thinker, so we can see that he is talking about how we can have a rational state, and his ideas are something which is also shaping the present form of democracy. Then we can see John Locke. He is talking about how to have a balance of selfishness and selflessness, how we should take care of the individual rights as well as the collective rights of the people, the state, and how to establish the state in a way that it is protecting individual rights as well as collective rights. So that's John Locke for you, very briefly speaking. You can just remember the names, that is more than enough. You won't have the luxury of words to write in detail what Machiavelli is saying, what Thomas Hobbes is saying, and what John Locke is saying. सबने ध्यान से सुना? कोई मिस तो नहीं किया? डिटेल एग्जाम में नहीं लिख पाओगे, 150 वर्ड का आंसर ही कहाँ लिख पाओगे डिटेल. थॉमस हॉब्स क्या बोल रहे हैं, जॉन लॉक क्या, आपको पता होना चाहिए बस. You should not be like completely like untouched by their philosophy. You should know what they are talking. Anyway, it will be helpful in paper 4 also. So Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke. Just remember the names. That's important for you. Then we can see there are French Revolution thinkers like Voltaire. So he has urged the people to form society which is not imposed upon them. Means they are choosing their leader. Means Voltaire is paving the way for democracy even further. Choose your leader yourself. We can see there's Denis Diderot. So Denis Diderot is talking about the idea of freedom. We have Rousseau. He is talking about the idea of general will, the common will of the people. We have Montesquieu. He has written the book of Spirit of Law, and through which he is talking about the idea of separation of power. So all these ideas which you study in polity today have been paved by thinkers like these. Then we have John Locke, the same guy who you can see over here. So John Locke is here as well. So John Locke, who is he? He is an Englishman, and he is advocating that every individual has certain basic rights or personal freedom which no one can infringe upon, no one can take it away. कुछ ऐसे मूल अधिकार होते हैं, सिद्धांत होते हैं जो कोई नहीं छीन सकता है आपका, ठीक है. सो दोज बेसिक राइट्स are associated with the way people are living, the way people are existing, and the kind of interventions that people can come up with. Okay. So we can see Locke is there. Other than him, we can see there are economic theories. So economic theories, liberal economy, I told you liberalism is connected to politics as well as economy. So we will be seeing that mercantilism, this concept is given by Wiener. And then we can see laissez-faire and absolute advantage. The concept is by Adam Smith. Then we have comparative advantage given by David Ricardo. All right. And then we can see materialistic scale as yardstick for happiness. This is Jeremy Bentham. Utilitarianism, I told you. The maximum benefit for maximum people, right? So that's what. So this is utilitarianism of Bentham, and John Stuart Mill. He's talking about the reduce the progressive and increase the inheritance tax. Progressive tax, जैसे मान लीजिए हम कुछ business कर रहे हैं, तो मेरे को ease of business कब होगा? जब मेरे ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा tax नहीं गवर्नमेंट मतलब डालेगी. तो टैक्स किससे करिए? जिसके पास खूब सारी पहले की प्रॉपर्टी है, पुरानी प्रॉपर्टी, उससे ज्यादा टैक्स लीजिए. लेकिन जो बिजनेस में कंट्री को प्रोग्रेस दे रहा है, जो बिजनेस करके कंट्री के इकोनॉमी को बढ़ावा दे रहा है, जो इंसान 4 और लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे रहा है, उस इंसान को क्या करिए? मोटिवेट करिए, उसको ईज ऑफ बिजनेस दीजिए. हु इज टॉकिंग अबाउट इट? J.S. Mill. All right. So we can see all these given thinkers, they are also paving the way for how the society ought to be there. And these are the thinkers who are associated with what? They're associated with liberal ideology, and they are connected to period of enlightenment. So period of enlightenment, when we say who are the agents of social change in period of enlightenment, so we have scholars, we have scientists, we have religious reformers, we have political reformers and thinkers, we have economists. I hope all of you can see the list. So these are the 5 categories through which we can connect that how period of enlightenment unfolds because of the efforts of people who are connected to literature, economy, politics, science, and all these, and religion. And all these 5 categories of people are paving the intellectual way the society ought to exist. Clear? सबको? अब सोचो यही बैठ के तुम लिख रहे हो, अगर मैं डिक्टेशन दे रही हूँ तो घंटों लिख रहे हो. अब जब समझा रही हूँ तो बेहतर समझ में आ रहा है, कॉन्सेप्ट वर्ड दिख रहा है, क्या कॉपी में लिखकर नोट्स बनाना है ये भी समझ में आ रहा है. जितना मैंने कीवर्ड्स दिया है, अंडरलाइन किया है, मार्क किया है, सिर्फ उतना अगर आप याद कर लीजिए तो आंसर आप एग्जाम में दे सकेंगे. ठीक है. टुमारो द मोमेंट आई फिनिश दिस गिवन सब टॉपिक, आई विल शो यू द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन. So whatever you have studied, you can see the question, and that enthuses you, that encourages your confidence that yes, ab ho raha hai, ab maza aa raha hai. Okay? So that is something which should be created. Now, so difference between enlightenment and Renaissance. Now you ek to difference aapko pata hai. What is the difference? What is the difference between like Renaissance and enlightenment? First difference, first basic difference. बिल्कुल सही. टाइम पीरियड क्या है रेनासा का टाइम पीरियड? वेरी गुड. 14 to 17th सेंचुरी. और मैंने एनलाइटनमेंट का बोला मिड 17th से शुरू हो जाता है और ये चलता है टिल 19th सेंचुरी. ठीक है. इनफैक्ट अर्ली 20th तक भी हम इसको टच कर सकते हैं. ठीक. सो यू कैन से मिड 17th टू अर्ली 20th. इनफैक्ट इसको 19th तक ही मैं समेट कर रखती हूँ. अर्ली 20th वाले उसके फॉलो अप थिंकर्स तो बेहतर है. मिड 17th to 19th सेंचुरी. तो पहला तो टाइम पीरियड में डिफरेंस है. अब यहाँ लिखा या नेमली 2 distinctly different periods, and then we can see they both heralded major changes. So they are the ones who are motivating change in culture, art, philosophy, science, mathematics. दोनों के वजह से ये हो रहा है. ठीक है. तो intellectually they are impacting the culture, the art, the philosophy, the science, and the mathematics of the world. So people are thinking, they are creating. When you think, when you create, you become modern. So people are thinking and creating new possibilities, as all of you can see, right? So further, we all can see that the Renaissance is associated with advances in literature, architecture, humanism. मैंने आपको बताया था, humanism, humanitarian philosophy, Renaissance, okay, and a world economy. It's a global economy. That's what Renaissance is talking about. While enlightenment, Now, enlightenment is exclusive because this is the one which is connected to your syllabus. So it is the one which is encouraging scientific method, industrialization, rationality, astronomy, and calculus. It is also connected to science and math, and it also impacted many America's founding fathers. So many of America's founding fathers means even ideologically, it was shaping not only Europe, but it was also influencing the American society. The American philosophers, thinkers, even political leaders were highly inspired by the thinkers of period of enlightenment. Okay, so we all can see that the Renaissance, it is referred as the Middle Ages. In French, it literally means rebirth. And it means that during this time period, there will be a golden age of artistic or cultural liberation. Moreover, you will see that it is going to, and in India में हम जब रेनासा की बात करते हैं तो किसको बोलते हैं? Raja Ram Mohan Roy, ठीक है, very good. In the domain of, yeah, yes, Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. And when we are talking about Renaissance in literature in India, that gets connected to Chayawala. So all those students who are from northern India and have studied Hindi literature, you must have heard of Sumitra Nandan Pant, Mahadevi Verma, okay, Nirala. All these poets, they were inspired by the Renaissance ideologies, thinkers, even the, we can say, the artistic insights. Okay, to a certain extent, even Rabindranath Tagore is considered to be like impacted by the Renaissance thinkers and we can say possibilities. But we cannot completely connect Rabindranath Tagore because Rabindranath Tagore was also highly influenced by Upanishads, which is depicted in his poetry, also in his songs, also in his paintings. You can see that very clearly visible. So during this time period, during Renaissance, we can see that there are some famous people are Galileo Galilei. So remember, I told you Galileo Galilei, 14th से 17th century के time period पर इन लोगों का बहिष्कार भी हुआ. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Niccolo Machiavelli. Okay, Leonardo da Vinci was the central figure during Renaissance. So da Vinci, इसीलिए आप देखेंगे साइंस में भी da Vinci का नाम आएगा, आर्किटेक्चर में भी da Vinci का नाम आएगा. एयरप्लेन का फर्स्ट मॉडर्न जो फ्रेम बना था वो डाविंसी के आपको उसमें दिखेगा. रिलीजन से भी डाविंसी को जोड़ते हैं, फिलॉसफी से भी डाविंसी को जोड़ते हैं, पेंटिंग से भी डाविंसी को जोड़ते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई ही इज अ सेंट्रल फिगर टू रेनासा. ऑलराइट, रेनासा पे क्वेश्चन आने के चांसेस कम है, इसीलिए मैं इसको कुछ भी आप देखिए मैंने अंडरलाइन नहीं किया, ना थिंकर्स ना कौन क्या, बिकॉज इस पर क्वेश्चन नहीं आया. वी कैन सी financial, political, and technological innovations that happened during this time period, all these, they contributed to this explosion in civilization. They are the ones which are shaping the possibility of the next phase we can consider. The Black Plague, it emerged during this time. Aapne suna hoga Black Plague when we talk about the history of pandemics and endemics. So सबसे पहले किसका नाम आता है? Black Plague का. अब Black Plague की वजह से यूरोप में during that time period when the population was so less, more than 1 billion people died. I mean, we are not talking about present day India, present day world. During those times, a lot of people died. So due to which we can say it killed many people, but ended up redistributing wealth. Because if a lot of people will die, the people will start taking up the wealth, those who are left behind. So the wealth will get redistributed. People will run away from those cities, those areas where the Black Plague is spreading. So they will go to new areas, which is cleaner, greener. The spread of infection, the chances of spread of infection is less. So that will lead to remapping the cities, means re-establishing new areas as new parts of the city or new cities per se. Can you connect with that? Then we can see also establishing a literate middle class. So an educated or a literate middle class shall also emerge because of this. Understood? Now, so the Gutenberg press, it allowed people to translate widely and distribute written material. The advance in shipbuilding and ocean navigation, it will strengthen the economic ties of Europe with other parts of the world. Because if you are building ships and you are having the capability to navigate the ocean, the water body, definitely you can travel better. So that's what is like something which you get to understand. And that is how the ties between Europe and East will come into existence. Prior to that, how was Europe connected to East or Asia? How was it connected? Via land route. Prior to sea route, it was connected by land route. And what was the land route? The famous land route called the Silk Route. The Silk Route moved from China to India, and again further up, there were two, in fact, sub branches. One was towards India, the other was from Mongolia. It merged to Central Asia, and then it moved all the way from Saudi Arabia to Istanbul, and further from Saudi Arabia, Istanbul, it moved to Italy, and from Italy, it moved to the rest of the Europe. Now, what happened was that Marco Polo, first his great grandfather, अगर आप ये there was a very famous novel by William Dalrymple, um, into Xanadu, something like that. Way back, I had read it. So I remember the place Xanadu because he had been to that place. So Xanadu is the first place where the Silk Route can be traced from. So the ancient Silk Route, he actually got when he was a student. Now presently he is a man, probably in his late 50s or early 60s. So William Dalrymple, when he was he must be in early 60s, I'm quite sure. So this man, when he was a boy in early 20s, he had received a scholarship. And with that scholarship, he got an opportunity to explore all the way from, we can say, Xanadu to Jerusalem. Okay, and he had to study the path and all the experiences, and he had to like make a travel log, and he had to enlist the history because he was a history student. So he got this amazing scholarship. I wish I also got a scholarship like this, whereby paid travel was made possible. Anyway, so he traveled all the way, he documented his journey, and it's a very well written book for a 20 something old boy. So, in that, he spoke about this given possibility of Silk Route. So, he spoke about this that Marco Polo's great grandfather had discovered the route from Italy all the way to China. And he was trading, and later on, Marco Polo followed. And interestingly, today in history, Marco Polo is celebrated so much. He is remembered like in a way which is quite unparalleled to many other, we can say, Italian travelers. But during his time, if we read the Chinese history, no one really documents a man called Marco Polo. He is nowhere heard. What is documented is just a note related to his grandfather, but that's it. So Marco Polo is more glorified in the Western world rather than even known in the Eastern. So this guy, when he discovered the route and he highlighted the route further, then he facilitated this possibility for Italy to hijack the taxation. आपके लिए मजेदार, इटली से ही होकर यूरोप में, फ्रांस में, बेल्जियम में, इंग्लैंड में, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड, स्विट्जरलैंड में, सारे जो रिच एंड ऑर्नामेंटल थिंग्स हैं, स्पाइसेस हैं, वो कहां से, एशिया से जा रही थी वहां. So all kinds of spices, herbs, silk, fine crochet, all kinds of different types of clothes, which was, it was considered, अगर मैं Megasthenes को quote करूं तो Megasthenes ने कहा था कि as I travel I can see that from the Cape of Good Hope all the way to China, Guangzhou province, every person in between this route was dressed from head to toe in clothes that were made in India. So India has been draping and and has been covering the world for centuries together. So अब आप समझ लीजिए कि इंडियन कपड़ा इतना ज्यादा फाइन था, इतना ज्यादा पॉपुलर था. अब ये जितना सारा माल जाता था, इसको दो जगह टैक्स का मतलब स्लैब लगता था. कहाँ लगता था? एक सऊदी अरेबिया, ठीक है, वहां के जो ट्राइबल हेड्स हैं वो पैसा लेते थे, टैक्स लेते थे. एंड सेकेंड वॉज इन इटली. So that's why it became very expensive for the French people, for the English people, okay, the Western Europe, it became very expensive to get goods from Asia because they had to pay heavy taxes. So then they started exploring this, that is written here, ocean navigation and seafaring, shipbuilding, because they realized it is only through this that they can come across and they can find new land for new economic opportunities. So they tried to explore Africa. They tried to explore in the northern parts when we talk about the Scandinavian countries. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग आपको थियरीज मिलेगी. जैसे आइसलैंड जाएंगे ना, तो आइसलैंड आप जाएंगे तो वहां पर आइस नहीं है, वो बिल्कुल ग्रीन एंड ब्यूटीफुल एंड सीरीन है. तो नाम क्यों रखा आइसलैंड? ताकि वाइकिंग्स वहां आकर अटैक ना करें और वहां वो शांति से रह सके। और ग्रीनलैंड इज एक्चुअली कवर्ड विथ आइस, which is not green. So this contrary name is because of that, so that they are able to save themselves, their economy. Because you can see Europe is relatively very tiny. So all the people living in Europe, they will try to find new land, new opportunity, new patterns of trade and commerce. They did not settle majorly in Asia because Asia is tropical. And it was harsh environments that made them uncomfortable to stay here, to settle here. या मच्छर मक्खी, धूप गर्मी, और वो उनसे सहा नहीं जाता था. So they wanted to get back to their land. So they colonized, though they colonized Asia, different parts of Asia, different countries in Asia, you don't see the Europeans settling in Asia. They are trading, they are taking goods, they are taking services, but they are moving away. That's something, the pattern that you'll see in the 300 years of how the Europeans are interacting with Asians. Anyway, so we all can see agar printing hai, to printing se kya hoga? What does printing facilitate? It will not only facilitate the printing of books, printing of Bible, but it will also facilitate printing of several copies of maps. And when you have several copies of maps, it will facilitate navigation. With printing, you can pass wisdom from one generation to another. रोट लर्निंग का एक सीमा है, समझ रहे हैं इस चीज को? ठीक है, तो जब रोट लर्निंग में सीमा है, तो हम लोग क्या करेंगे, जब प्रिंट करेंगे तो हम डिटेल्स बता सकते हैं. We can get into the details of it, right? So all this starts unfolding, which we all can see. So we can further like reflect upon it, not to mention the new world. So ties between all of Europe and the East and the new world. What is new world? ये जो ये लोग नए areas को discover कर रहे हैं, जैसे Latin America, Africa, ठीक है, like North America, you can see all of them, they tried to capture. North America, which is called USA, it actually did not belong to Europeans, right? Today, all those people who call themselves authentic to US, they're not really authentic to US. Who is authentically belonging to the US? The Red Indians. And the Red Indians were the ones who belonged to the American land. But they were killed, butchered, billions in number. They were wiped out. And that's how we can see that the Spanish, the French, the Italians, the British, all of them, they went and they started capturing the land. So that's why you can see the Caucasoid race is dominating in that area. Because the Caucasoid race is the one which is there in Europe. Logic समझ में आ रहा है? Racial logic, कौन कहाँ कैसे पहुंच रहे हैं? थोड़ा सा basic geography इसलिए बता गया, so that you could visualize how societies are getting created. So knowledge, when we are talking about it, so knowledge with respect to its accessibility, now it was accessible when Greek and Roman texts were translated from Latin into Italian, French, and English. Because if you are printing press, you can not only translate, you can document the information. So documentation became easier. So scholars could expand upon ancient wisdom. तब आपको जब बात समझ में आने लग गई, ग्रीक एंड रोमन, जब हम थिंकर्स की बात करें, यस, एरिस्टोटल, सोक्रेटिस, प्लेटो, ऑल दीज थिंकर्स, राइट? एंड वी कैन से द लेटर डे थिंकर्स. अगर आप सोफीज वर्ल्ड पढ़ेंगे, तो सोफीज वर्ल्ड में आपको एंशिएंट वेस्टर्न फिलोसफर्स एंड थिंकर्स में मेजरली ग्रीक और रोमन थिंकर्स में, ठीक है? तो इनके वर्क को हमने क्या किया, ये इटालियन, लैटिन थिंकर्स को हमने क्या किया, ट्रांसलेट पहले इन लैंग्वेजेस में किया, और फिर इसको लैटिन से ट्रांसलेट करके फिर हम इटालियन, फ्रेंच और इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेट करने लगे. और जैसे ही ये इटालियन, फ्रेंच और इंग्लिश में अवेलेबल हुआ, क्या हुआ, लोग बेहतर समझने लगे. विजडम स्टार्टेड स्प्रेडिंग, right? So St. Peter's Basilica was built during the Renaissance period. And if you get an opportunity to visit this place in person, you will be overwhelmed by the nature of architecture, the details of the architecture, and the beauty of it. Okay, so St. Peter's Basilica Church, it is quite beautiful. But India, may we have our own version of, I can say, amazing pieces of architecture, which are less glorified, probably because of not so healthy tourism. India, Indian tourism is more strong. Means Indians traveling across India and giving boost to the local tourism. Global footfall is constantly reducing in the wake of. Why is global tourism reducing in India? In the wake of? Huh? No, I'm saying like, if that was the reason, they won't have been traveling to other parts of. So why is tourism dropping in India? Off late, especially after COVID. Yes.
Security concern also.
Yes, that's the major reason. People feel very unsafe in India because of several types of crime that have emerged in the recent past. And they have not only got reported, but they have also got spread very easily. So, in different parts of India, like you must have heard that incident that happened in Karnataka, right, in the outskirts of Bangalore. The incident that happened last year in Jharkhand, when the two cyclists, they were like the couple, the wife and the husband, they settled down and they were brutally raped. The husband was hit on the skull. He somehow survived, and the woman also somehow survived. But when such incidents are reported across the world, people feel apprehensive. Also, there are indicators, there are international markers associated with safety of women across the world. There are certain, we can say, rankings that are given. So, due to those rankings, also, especially when women travelers are apprehensive, the family will not travel. You can understand that, right? So that is also something because of which we can see global tourism is constantly falling in India. Every year we can see lesser number of tourists are aspiring to come to India because of, if we talk about, first reason is security concern. Second is lack of hygiene. थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज में आप चले जाइए, आप मलेशिया चले जाइए, इंडोनेशिया चले जाइए, फिलीपींस चले, सब थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज है, लेकिन आपको साफ सुथरे दिखेंगे, लोगों में एक सेंस ऑफ हाइजीन है. कोई कहीं भी अब देखें कोबरा बन जाता है, पट से थूक देता है, ठीक है, तो एकदम फ्लाइंग कोबराज हियर एंड देयर, शीशा नीचे किया, पट से थूक दिया, तो लाइक द सेंस ऑफ हाइजीन इज मेजरली कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड इन इंडिया. कंस्ट्रक्शन के कोई नॉर्म्स नहीं है, कोई भी कहीं भी बिल्डिंग तोड़ने फाड़ने लगता है, डस्ट फैलने लगता है. आप देखेंगे इवन थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज में मतलब प्रॉपर मतलब ग्रीन जो कपड़ा होता है उससे 2 लेयर करके ढकते हैं ताकि डस्ट डजंट स्प्रेड. There are norms associated with construction which is like thoroughly followed, but in India we see those norms are never respected, and that impacts the air quality. If pollution is there, if lack of hygiene is there, if safety is not there, so definitely that will impact the people who will try to travel to these parts of the world. तो ये सारे Anyway, so we can further see that from 1650 to 1800 Europe, the New World experienced an enlightenment. So this is the time period primarily when you see enlightenment thinkers coming into existence. So there are new paradigms of morality. If we are talking about the points, so new paradigms of morality. This time period, we can see there is period of discovery also. Period of discovery, you can connect, put a dash and then connect it with the realm of science, mathematics, and technology. We can also see like logic and reason, it starts reigning during this time period, and when logic and reason will be there, so that will definitely give rise to modernity. All right. At the same time, when we further reflect upon the given dimension, we all can see that during this time period, we all can reflect upon the possibilities that start unfolding, and we can see that eventually we all can reflect upon the dynamics of how the lifestyle starts getting impacted because of these scientific innovations and changes. So क्या होगा? इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन होगा. इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की वजह से क्या होगा? अदर वॉक्स ऑफ लाइफ भी impacted होगा. अब चूंकि ये इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का पॉइंट नहीं है, तो यहाँ सिर्फ हिंट करके छोड़ दिया गया. You can see that logic and reason reigned as thinkers became convinced that society and the natural world were like a giant united machine, and that while it may be complicated, would eventually be dismantled, studied, and mastered. Means through logic and reason, we can study the society, we can study the natural world in bits and pieces, in parts. जैसे biology में सिर्फ biological aspect पढ़ लिया, economy में सिर्फ economic aspect पढ़ लिया. Because society and the natural world, it can be dismantled, studied, and mastered. What is dismantled? Broken into parts, and every subpart can be studied individually. Understanding this? लेकिन ये जो it is like a giant machine, like a united machine, ये आपको आगे भी कई बार ये वर्ड मिलेगा. किसमें? This organismic analogy. एनालॉजी, ये वर्ड आपको कई बार आगे चल के टकराएगा. हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर से शुरू होगा. हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर इज अ थिंकर, तो इसको कई लोग ऑर्गेनिक एनालॉजी भी कहते हैं, या कुछ लोग ऑर्गेनिज्मिक एनालॉजी भी कहते हैं. व्हाट डज दिस मीन? एनालॉजी मीन्स कंपैरिजन. एनालॉजी मीन्स व्हेन यू गिव कंपैरिजन, गिव एग्जाम्पल. ऑर्गेनिज्मिक एनालॉजी मतलब क्या? देखो ये एक डायग्राम है, आज बना रही, आखिरी तक बनता रहे, बार 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 कई बार। ठीक है, ये है डायग्राम किसका, एक कीड़े का। ठीक, दिख रहा है सबको? ये जो कीड़ा है जिसके ऐसे ढेर सारे टांग हाथ है, ठीक है, सुंडी भी निकली हुई है और इसकी आंखें हैं, अंदर इसके बॉडी में ऑर्गन्स है। तो ये ऑर्गेनिज्मिक एनालॉजी में क्या बोलता है, थिंकर्स ये बोलते हैं कि द वे डिफरेंट ऑर्गन्स लाइक इसका, लाइक लेट्स से इसका जितने भी इंटेग्यूमेंट्री सिस्टम है, लाइक लेट्स से इसका सपोज एक ब्लड फ्लो से रिलेटेड अगर हम बात करें, या इसका लाइक लेट्स से रेस्पिरेशन से रिलेटेड बात करें, तो देर आर डिफरेंट सिस्टम्स इन द बॉडी ऑफ दिस ऑर्गन or of this organism, and all these, the hands, the legs, the tentacles, the eyes, everything is working in coordination to let this organism survive. So when all the organs are working together, though they are working individually, but despite working individually, they are also working in cooperation with each other. This is called organismic analogy. Understanding this? And this is something which we arrived at in the period of enlightenment. The things, the society is like what? It is like a giant united machine. So it's like a giant united machine, very complicated, but it can be dismantled and every part can be studied. Like political system, economic system, system of religion. Are you understanding that? So all these are different parts of the society. They can be studied individually, but they are also existing in correlation with each other. So all these institutions are working in correlation with each other, as well as existing in isolation, as well as existing and functioning in its own self. So cooperation and individual existence, both is there. Are you understanding this? That's why it can be studied by dismantling and mastering each one of them individually. So the scientific study, which relied on the notion of objective observation leading to verifiable conclusions, spurred developments in astronomy, philosophy, medicine, physiology. So during the period of enlightenment, what do we see? On one hand, when we are talking about objective observation, what is objective observation? Believing in facts, focusing on facts as it is visible, as we can observe it. तो ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑब्जर्वेशन पर जब हमने फोकस किया तो ये सारे डिसिप्लिन्स का डेवलपमेंट हुआ. एस्ट्रोनॉमी, एस्ट्रोनॉमी इज कनेक्टेड टू, कौन बताएगा व्हाट इज एस्ट्रोनॉमी? Okay, it is connected to space, stars, planetary bodies, then philosophy, then we can see medicine, physiology, transportation, chemistry, ethics, all these disciplines. So enlightenment, it also gave rise to scientists like Sir Isaac Newton, because we can see that it is the era of logic and reason. समझ में आ रहा है? तो जो लॉजिक एंड रीजन पर बेस्ड होगा वही चीज किस चीज को डेवलप करेगा? The era of logic and reason. So because it is the era of logic and reason, objective observation, that's why it will also build scientific temperament, and it will also give rise to scientists. Understanding this, right? So empirical data suddenly displaced people's superstitious notion. पहले superstition notion था, beliefs based था, tradition based था. When we started focusing on objective observation, then we are focusing on empirical data. Because objectivity is based on what? Facts, observable facts. So empirical data will be like, no, it's not possible because we cannot understand. Someone is saying, oh, don't eat during eclipses. Don't do during this time period. Lightning is the fury of God. And then you start understanding through science that no, it is basic geography. There is physics involved. So when you get into astronomy, physics, like scientific inquiry, you start understanding the phenomena of nature, whether it is lightning or eclipses or people getting diseases. Earlier, people getting leprosy, they were considered as the curse of God. The person was not only ostracized because of the infection, but also socially, as someone who's a major sinner. Even people who are suffering from hallucinations, it was considered these people are possessed. It is later that people started understanding that hallucinations are nothing but mental disorders. Are you getting it? So scientific explanation for all of it. So the new authority. So when you start giving reason for whatever is happening, when you start doing research related to what is happening and giving more verifiable conclusions, which any person can understand logically. It will question the authority of the church. It will question the authority of what? So people will start questioning, how far should we be religious? How far should we follow the church, the authority of the church? So during this time period, during the period of enlightenment, these are the thinkers who come into existence. A few of them, which are enlisted here. So Charles Darwin, he starts exploring nature, evolution of human beings. So Isaac Newton, a physicist. Then we can see Galileo Galilei getting connected to astronomy. We can see Gottfried Leibniz. So all these people, like he is connected to calculus. All these people, they started talking about the possibility of science and the kind of impact that can be created. So society, it started valuing truth, not belief. And what is this truth? This truth is verifiable, based on logic, based on reasoning. Okay. So truth based on logic. Right? So it is based on logic. That's how we can see. So ethical behavior was what? Treat everyone fairly. And when you're treating everyone fairly, you will go ahead with what? The principles of equality. You will go for principles of liberty. You will go for principles of fraternity. Because in the absence of fraternity, equality, liberty, can you treat everyone fairly? No. So that's how you start seeing. And that's how you can see that the impact of thinkers like Thomas Hobbes, Baruch Spinoza starts unfolding. Right? Everyone can understand this? Okay. So that's why I said that this is late 17th century. Remember? I said 1714 to 17th is considered as Renaissance. But late 17th century and 18th century, entire 18th, even a bit of 19th is also considered as period of enlightenment. So during this time period, earlier who was at the center of universe? Earlier, Earth. अरे भाई, वो तो ठीक है, लेकिन और कुछ? Earlier, God. Okay, God was at this considered as the center of universe. Now, who is at the center of universe? Human being. So, human being was at the center of universe. इसमें चाहो तो यहाँ भी लिख भी सकते हो. Earlier, God or religion was considered इन द सेंटर. कोई भी चीज के डिबेट, डिस्कशन या डायलॉग में पहले हमेशा गॉड या रिलीजन को ही रेफरेंस में रखा जाता था. लेकिन अब किसको रखा जाता है? अब रखा जा रहा है ह्यूमन बीइंग्स को. कब से? पीरियड ऑफ रेनासा या पीरियड ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट. किसमें कहेंगे? पीरियड ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट. Period of Renaissance में भी नहीं कहा जाता है कि the human being is at the center. During period of Renaissance, they were focusing more on ideal principles. What ought to be there? What should be there? What is there पर discussion ही शुरू होता है period of enlightenment. ठीक है? So human being comes in the center. So it is period of enlightenment which is encouraging us to think rationally and critically. Right? सोचना शुरू किया हमने rationally, critically. And this is how we start realizing that human beings are both the producer and user of all certain key insights. If suppose मान लो कभी अभी तक तो 150 वर्ड का पूछ रहा है, कभी अगर पूछ दिया 250 वर्ड, 15 mark, you should not be at the dearth of content. You should be able to reproduce the content in 250 words as well. Okay, so agents of, we can say, period of enlightenment, you have that list. After that, we are reflecting upon how period of enlightenment is encouraging change. So it is encouraging change in the way of thinking, the way people are perceiving the ideas, perceiving the insights. So for reason to become central position, they earlier occupied. Thus, the attitude of mind that we refer today as secular, scientific, progressive, humanistic, all this developed during the period of enlightenment. Okay? So yes, sir. So this period of reason and rationalism witnessed a dramatic change in the mental status of people. अब change किसमें हो रहा है? लोगों के mental status. Society started thinking more logically, more pragmatically. तो अगर लोग logically सोचेंगे, तो उसके वजह से क्या-क्या changes आएंगे? तो यहाँ पर ideological modernity की वजह से change आएगा, faith in human progress, that we can always constantly evolve, we can make new innovations and discoveries. Ability of science, and science can provide new solutions for diseases, for problems that the society is suffering from, right? Simultaneously, we can see that there is rational thought and empiricism. अगर आपको बहुत 150 words में लिखना है कि what is the impact of period of enlightenment, तो ये 5 point must आना चाहिए, is like the most important. 250 words में अगर लिखना है तो ऊपर के जो keywords underline किए वो भी आ जाना चाहिए, ठीक है? ये ऊपर के ही वर्ड्स का ये जिस्ट है, जो ऊपर वाला पैराग्राफ में मैं कीवर्ड्स अंडरलाइन कर रही थी उसी का ये 5 पॉइंट जिस्ट है. A spirit of questioning, you start questioning everything that's happening around you. You don't believe things on face value. And then last but not the least, we all can see a belief that nature follows universal laws. So nature is following universal laws, like lightning, like thunderstorm, and it can be studied scientifically. It's not the fury of God. Are you understanding this, everyone? तो ये हम देखते हैं कहीं ना कहीं इमर्ज होता है सोसाइटी. कल ही मैंने आपको बताया कि जब भी कोई चेंज होगा उसमें दो चीजें होंगी, एक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट which will accept change, the second school of thought which will resist change. So who started resisting change? The conservatives. I told you the radicals will accept change, they will be pro change. In fact, you can mention it here. So the radicals accepted change as a way of life. So the radicals accepted change as a way of life. And the conservatives, what will they do? The conservatives will, ठीक है? So the conservatives, अब जितने बच्चों के पास आज प्रिंट आउट है उनको ये समझ में आ रहा होगा प्रिंट आउट का कितना फायदा है. You're writing in the printout and you're also highlighting the keywords. घर जाके सिर्फ आपको इसका साथ में की नोट्स बनाना है. That's it. जो साथ में हाथ के हाथ लिख रहे हैं, whatever I'm underlining, whatever I'm like marking on the board, good. Glad like to know that आपका साथ के साथ नोट्स बन रहा है. जिनको लग रहा है कि नहीं मुझे क्लास में सिर्फ सुनना है, समझना है और अंडरलाइन करना है और घर जाके मुझे उसको फिर से सुन के नोट्स बना लेना है, ठीक है? तो those people can also go ahead with that. Let me share that the first 3 sessions I generally keep it open. Okay, so I'll be uploading this session and tomorrow's session also on YouTube so that like larger audience can see, observe, get to know that how you people are interacting in the class and how the lecture is unfolding. But after that, the lectures will not be posted on YouTube. By that time, everyone's mail ID और अपना mail ID please सबको correct देना management. कोई भी अगर आए माए उल्टा सुल्टा मेल आईडी दे दिया तो फिर उसको मंडे के लेक्चर से अटेंड करना टफ हो जाएगा, स्पेशली द ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, बिकॉज आई विल बी रजिस्टरिंग योर मेल आईडी, द नेम्स, द मेल आईडी, सो दैट the like attendance and register can be maintained of every student, and on that mail ID only I will give you the access to the recorded session. So every student will get a personalized message from me whereby I'll give you like on your mail ID I'll send you the personalized link of the notes as well as the lecture in future. All right, so it's the mail ID which is going to play the most crucial role in your journey further ahead. So don't give, जैसे पिछले साल एक बच्चा अपना मेल आईडी दे दिया था, दो at that time portal was there, लेकिन और अभी भी portal है, लेकिन last year मैंने देखा बहुत बच्चे struggle कर रहे थे शुरुआत. So I was like this year I'll make it simpler. So the student gave the mail ID of the parent. बोला पापा पासवर्ड भूल गए, अब समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, तो फिर मुझे वापस मेल आईडी उसने एक नया बनाया, चेंज किया. तो ये सब तूफानी हरकत इस एज में कोई नहीं करेगा, इन द एरा ऑफ सो मच ऑफ एक्सपोजर टू सोशल मीडिया, कि पापा का अपना मेल आईडी दे रहा है और फिर बाद में उनका पासवर्ड भी भूल जा रहा है या पापा भूल गए. सो जस्ट सी टू इट यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग द करेक्ट मेल आईडी which you can open and have access to. You remember the password, you have not forgotten it. Don't give a mail id just for the sake of it. It's the key to knowing the lecture. Now, so the conservatives, what did they do? So the conservatives resisted change. Resisted change. अब देखो दोनों से दो चीजें आपको समझ में आए. Radicals किसकी बात करेंगे? Radicals will talk about, yes, they will talk about questioning mind or inquiry, right? So questioning, or we can say they will talk about inquiry. Radicals will be talking about change. Radicals will be talking about innovation, right? Whereas the conservatives will be talking about order. They will be talking about peace. They will be talking about stability. Because इनके हिसाब से change आने से पीस ऑर्डर एंड स्टेबिलिटी कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड होता है। एंड व्हाट इज द ट्रुथ? वी नीड अ बैलेंस बिटवीन बोथ। आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट? यहां पर मैं लिख भी देती हूँ। So resisted change, they focus upon, they focus upon. So they focus upon order, peace, and stability. Therefore, the society needs a balance between, therefore, the society needs a balance between the goals of, the goals of, the goals of radicals as well as the conservatives. हमें दोनों के गोल अचीव करना है। रेडिकल्स का गोल क्या है? हैविंग ऑलवेज अ सेंस ऑफ इंक्वायरी, हैविंग अ सेंस ऑफ रीजनिंग। तो हमारे अंदर रीजनिंग या इंक्वायरी रहे। वी शुड ऑलवेज बी रेडी फॉर चेंज, प्रो चेंज। वी शुड नॉट रेजिस्ट चेंज, बिकॉज इन चेंज, सुना ना, सर्वाइवेबिलिटी ऑफ द फिटेस्ट। नो वन सेज सर्वाइवेबिलिटी ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट। स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट कोई नहीं बोलता है, क्या बोलते हैं? सर्वाइवेबिलिटी ऑफ द फिटेस्ट। एंड हु इज फिट? हु इज ओपन टू चेंज, हु इज ओपन टू अडैप्ट, हु इज ओपन टू make the formidable adjustments. समझ में है? Change. And then we can say innovation. तो सोसाइटी को इनोवेशन भी चाहिए, चेंज भी चाहिए, और सोसाइटी को ऑर्डर, पीस और स्टेबिलिटी भी चाहिए. So the society needs a balance of the goals which radicals and conservatives are talking. Clear, everyone? Okay, good. So on this, when we are talking about it, we can further see. क्या बच्चा पूछा? Bhartendu Harishchandra, please give questions. Please give questions. Aparna will be talking about questions once we complete a topic. अभी तक तो एक सब टॉपिक नहीं कंप्लीट हुआ है, तो क्वेश्चन के लिए हड़बड़ा रही हूँ. इतना क्वेश्चन मिलेगा तब मैं देखूंगी कितना एक्टिवली सारे क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हो गए. So let us first complete the first topic. We have not even completed the first topic, that is modernity and social change. And I'm purposefully going slow. अभी मैं हड़बड़ पढ़ा दूं और बाद में मैम तो बहुत तेजी से भाग गए. ठीक है, पहले शुरू कर टॉपिक है. So go easy. I don't mind. Like in the schedule, generally I keep 4 sessions for chapter 1. 4 का 5 भी हो जाए मुझे कोई स्ट्रेस नहीं. शुरू के आपके जो 25 लेक्चर है ना, उसमें we have to go easy. All right. Now, the most extreme form of opposition to enlightenment, it came from where? The Catholic Church. Why? Because Catholic Church will resist change. Catholic Church will be pro-tradition. Catholic Church will be it will be pro what? Order. So because the order is in favor of the church. Are you understanding that? If change happens, people will not follow the church. So the church will be talking about how to follow the main order, right? Is it possible to give a topic wise? We are doing the very first topic, Aparna. The very first topic is yet not complete. But topic का सब topic, ये लड़की कल absent थी क्या? मतलब just a moment for everyone's interest. See, this is
there
the
any
first.
particular?
See,
Ma'am,
this
is
is the
there any
first topic. Modernity and social changes. In social changes, there are 3 subtopics. The 3 subtopic, one is the period of enlightenment, which is intellectual change. Then there is French Revolution, and then there is Industrial Revolution. अब ये period of enlightenment ही बेटा नहीं खत्म किए हैं, तो ये फर्स्ट टॉपिक का सब टॉपिक चल रहा है. जब तक इसको नहीं कंप्लीट करेंगे तब तक हम क्वेश्चन कैसे करें? We have to complete this. And can you trust me that I'll be discussing previous year question? Because I've said that and I've done it batch after batch. तो आपके बैच के साथ ऐसा धोखा क्यों होगा कि कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं डिस्कस होगा? So probably you can go easy and a bit patient. The moment I complete the topic, I can discuss the change and then discuss the given previous year questions. Right? हाँ, not today. ये लगता है बच्चा बीच में उड़कर आया है. ये शुरू में एब्सेंट था और एकदम अचानक बीच में ज्वाइन किया, लगा रहे अभी तक क्वेश्चन क्यों नहीं डिस्कस किया. So I have discussed this, that I'll be sharing the previous year question with all of you, and in the previous year question we will be discussing the possibility of how the answers ought to be dealt with. Anyway, getting back to the game. So I was discussing about Louis D. Bonald and Joseph D. Maistre. ये दो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थिंकर्स हैं, प्लीज इनका नाम याद रखिएगा. ये कौन से थिंकर्स हैं? कंजर्वेटिव थिंकर्स. ठीक है, you have to remember the name of the thinkers who are pro change. Who are those change? Who are those thinkers? Those thinkers are वही लॉक, रूसो, वोल्टायर, वो सब जो रट रहे थे ना, तो वो सारे स्कॉलर्स, साइंटिस्ट, फिलोसोफर्स, रिमेंबर फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशनरी थिंकर्स, ऑल दोस पीपल. And then we have the people who are counter revolutionary. And who are these counter revolutionary people? In other words, these people are the conservatives. Okay, these people are the conservatives. So yahan par ek minute. So when we are talking about Louis D. Bonald and Joseph D. Maistre, we all can understand that these people are the ones who are not appreciating the change. They feel that the revolutionary changes of French Revolution, it has rather disturbed the peace, it has disturbed the harmony. And they want that harmony and peace should be restored in the, all right? So they believe that earlier God was the source of society. Why? Because society was God-fearing. Society was based on tradition. It was based on religion. So it was God-fearing. Now, when you are giving importance to reason, you start questioning all the traditional religious beliefs. You start seeing it as inferior. And it is the religious beliefs which keeps the society together, the community spirit together. People, when they are God-fearing and they are standing together, there is a sense of sharing and fraternity. There is, like we can say, interdependence and there is peace. So interdependence is getting compromised. Is it making sense? So this is what we can see Louis D. Bonald is talking. Furthermore, we can see it was also believed.
Ma'am, is there any particular reason that it's only in French or French Catholic Church have protested this, not the other religion? I mean,
do you understand that in
relative countries.
Europe, if you read European history, in Europe it was Christianity that was dominating. And whoever is asking, are you aware that yesterday I discussed that Europe was dominated by Christianity? Islam was there in Middle East of Europe, of Asia, and in Middle Eastern parts. When we are talking about it, that is Saudi Arabia, you can see Iran, Iraq, like Central Asia, basically. So we can see that it is like Islam that is dominating. In rest of Asia, we can see primarily it was Buddhism. Buddhism had spread far and wide. Even today, the number of followers of Buddhism are considered as highest in Asia. Asia ka top religion, Buddhism. Then we can see the followers of Hinduism, and then we can see Islam. So when we are talking about the total number of followers and the percentage of followers, that's how you can connect with it. तो जब वहां पर other religion है ही नहीं तो उनकी बात क्यों करें?
No, ma'am. I think you. I mean, pardon me, ma'am, but I think you misunderstood. I'm not saying about the religion means the continent. I'm saying about particularly about the French, not English or any other country in that region particularly. Why it's
okay, you're
always
saying
French?
region, not religion, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm particularly quoting about the fact that the French Catholic churches are the one who countered the ideas. Why it
Yes.
actually the French, but not any other? Is there any reason?
So do you remember yesterday I spoke about American War of Independence?
Yes, ma'am. The French are the one that help Americans, Native Americans.
Yes, yes. So when I discussed that the American War of Independence happened, and in the American War of Independence, the French participated. They got back to their country. In their country, I spoke about Louis XIV and I spoke about Marie Antoinette and the plight of these, we can say, rulers. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So when the society is boiling politically, when the society is suffering economically, so the change will happen first immediately in that society itself, where the idea, the intellectual idea of change gets introduced. So it is coming from American War of Independence that there can be a form of government which is other than that of the king. So they are realizing, oh, other than the king, we can have another form of government, which is possible. And it is successful in another part of the world. At the same time, we are having intellectuals, because there were British intellectuals also. If you remember, we were talking about like John Stuart Mill. Remember, we were also talking about, we can say just a couple of minutes back, we were talking about John Locke. Remember, Locke was again an Englishman. So there are thinkers in other parts of the world. But why is France reacting as the first country towards it? Because other than the intellectual changes or the intellectual ideas brewing in the French society, there were also economic and political, like we can say, plight that the society was experiencing. And they got introduced to the idea that there can be a society which can be free from the king or the monarch. So when they got
Thank you, ma'am.
introduced to that,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's the logic was explained yesterday. It's just continuity of the same logic in greater detail. Good that you asked so that you could like get the concept reiterated, and once it is repeated, everyone is having a clearer perception. Clear हो गया? अच्छा हो गया उस बच्चे ने पूछ लिया. What about like 10 other students suffering from the same problem, not able to connect yesterday's topic with today's insight? So I hope now it's clear for everyone. Yeah. Okay. So we all can see that further it was believed that because God had created society, people should not tamper with it. So this is the conservatives. And conservatives are guided by religious ideology, guided by tradition. So they believe that we should not try to change the society because it is a holy creation. It is the byproduct of like God's mindset. So we should not tamper it. So Bonnard, he opposed anything that undermined such traditional institutions as patriarchy, monogamous family. Monogamy, you understand? Yes. So when one man is marrying only one partner or one wife, okay. The monarchy, the Catholic Church, he said, let us continue with all this. Why? Because it is creating order. And this order is supported by God. Okay. So, or religion in other ways. Then we can see Irvin Zetlin. Irvin Zetlin, we can see, is one of the early day thinkers. And we can see that he outlined some of the major propositions that he is seeing that are emerging as the conservative reaction. So when he is talking about the early day proposition of conservative reaction, he is talking about this given possibility that the classical French sociological theory was shaped by these early propositions as well. आगे चल के जब सोशियोलॉजी की नींव रखी गई, किसने नींव रखा in France? First Saint Simon, but Saint Simon died early. So it was Auguste Comte. And Auguste Comte was a Frenchman. So we can see that when in the French society they are talking about establishing the discipline of sociology, Irvin Zettling says that we took the insights of the conservative reaction also in consideration while establishing sociology. How? Because conservatives were talking about peace, order, harmony. And those insights were taken by sociology as the goal for the society. That what kind of society do we need? So, society which is adapting to social change. That idea is pro radicals. Radicals wanted change. So the sociologists, later day sociologists said that we'll be pro change, we'll adjust to the change, but at the same time, we will take the ideals from conservatives also, the ideals of order, peace, and harmony. And thus, we will create a society which is more balanced and it is more streamlined. So, we all can see that what is it that we are taking. So, whereas the Enlightenment thinkers, they tend to emphasize the individual. We can see that, right? Enlightenment thinkers are those who are supporting capitalism, industrialization, scientific temperament. So, they will be focusing on what? Individualism, right? Right to vote, right? Capitalist economy, market economy, trade. So they will be focusing on emphasis on the individual. Whereas conservative thinkers will be talking about society. Society is the creation of God, social harmony, community feeling. And we have to create a balance between both. Sociology tries to create a balance between both, where the individual as well as the society both are protected. Harmony between individual and community and the larger society between communities is also preserved and protected. So it was viewed as something more than simply an aggregate of individuals. Society is not merely aggregate of individuals. There is more to society which keeps it smooth and functioning. That is we feeling, sense of belongingness, that is interdependence. That is what probably the conservative thinkers wanted to say. Okay, anyway. So it was seen as having an existence of its own and its own laws of development. Own laws of development, why? Because every society has its own rituals, customs, insights, which also encourages the unique laws for a society. जैसे अमेरिका का abortion laws इंडिया के abortion laws से अलग है. तो हर सोसाइटी के अपने कुछ लॉज होंगे और उन लॉज के बेसिस पे वो सोसाइटी डेवलप करेगी. और वो लॉज कहां से निकल रहे हैं? ट्रेडिशन से. तो हम ट्रेडिशन पूरी तरह से छोड़ नहीं सकते. We have to be modern and we have to go with new laws, new possibilities. But then, along with the new laws, new changes, we also need to carry forward. We need to seek inspiration. We need to seek insights from the past tradition, which is still relevant, which is helping us maintain order, which is helping us maintain the social cohesion. Clear? Okay? First part. Second part. We can see society was the most important unit of analysis. So it produced the individual primarily through the process of socialization. An individual will not be a human being. The person will be an animal in the absence of socialization. And who is doing the socialization? First, the family. Second, the educational institutions. And third, the society. And that's there in your GS paper 4 syllabus. Inculcation of values by family, educational institutions, and society. So socialization. So we cannot try to understand the individual in isolation. हवा में individual की बात नहीं होती. An individual is a byproduct of the society. So we need to understand, we need to connect with the individual in the larger framework of the society itself. Understanding this bit, everyone? Now, so society consisted of such component or parts as roles, positions, relationships, structures, institutions, right? So that's how a society actually exists. And individuals were seen as doing little more than filling these units within society. So individual roles, positions, relationships, structures, institutions इनको संभालते हैं और इसके साथ साथ एक interdependence भी create करते हैं. So individual is not in isolation. Individual is also in correlation. Okay, and that insight we are gaining from these, we can say, conservative thinkers simultaneously. Again, we can see the parts of society were seen as interrelated and interdependent. Remember, I was talking about the organismic whole. Organismic whole, a couple of minutes back, organism banaya tha, organismic analogy. The same thing is given here. The system as a, ठीक है, यहाँ पर लिख भी देती हूँ, organismic analogy. So they started connecting with this given insight that the society is not in isolation. It is interrelated. It is interdependent. All right. Then the next point, as you can see, the various components of society, they were seen as satisfying people's need. हर एक component, हर एक institution का एक role है. क्या role है? So every institution is satisfying people's needs. When institutions were disrupted, people were likely to suffer. कोई भी इंस्टीट्यूशन को अगर आप टैपर करेंगे, डैमेज करेंगे, सोसाइटी सफर करेगी. Any institution, like if political institution is damaged, people will suffer because there will be lack of political order. If economic order is disrupted, the people will suffer economically. Social justice will be compromised. If religious institution is damaged, people will not have a sense of community feeling, sense of fraternity, sense of service. So every institution is essential to maintain social order. Absence of any institution can lead to social disorder. Understanding this bit, everyone? Then further we all can reflect. So small units such as family, the neighborhood, religious and occupational groups were also seen as essential to individual and society. Why? Because these institutions, अगर मैं ये जो small institutions या small units की बात करूं, so these are examples. So small units, they are essential for the society because they provide intimate face-to-face, like we can say, interaction, due to which we can say people, they are able to survive in a society. अगर हम किसी से बात नहीं कर रहे, मैकेनिकली बस खा रहे हैं, पी रहे हैं, सो रहे हैं, काम कर रहे हैं, तो एक समय के बाद बोरियत होगी, चटने लगेगा इंसान. So इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि हमारा intimate face-to-face interaction time and again होता है. Understanding this, right? And how is it possible? It is possible through smaller units. So the smaller units facilitate the possibility of intimate interaction, and that aids or it boosts survival. Again, we can see there are several modern changes. And when we are talking about modern changes, like Devasmita, like AK Devasmita, please stop this funny activity of using annotations. इसको erase करना पड़ेगा. बच्चे अनजाने में ये सब गड़बड़ करते थे. वो लगता लाओ ये टूल चला के देखे, तो उसी में वो ओके. अब उनको ये नहीं पता स्क्रीन पे नाम दिख रहा होता है मुझे, Who is doing this by mistake? Okay, now. So we all can see this, that there is a tendency to see different types of modern changes. So when there are different types of modern changes, now you understand what are the modern changes. Industrialization होगा, urbanization होगा. जब मोनार्की हट जाएगी, स्टेट आएगा, तो स्टेट को रन करने के लिए ब्यूरोक्रेटाइजेशन. You can connect all these, right? So industrialization, urbanization, bureaucratization, all these changes will happen. And these changes will create a lot of fear and anxiety in people because people have not seen this order earlier. They'll be surprised. How come a person is not bothering for the extended family, extended village? What's wrong with this person? This person is becoming so mechanical. This person is losing love in heart, compassion in heart. So you can understand this. All these possibilities will create fear and anxiety because people are not sure how they are moving ahead, where they are moving ahead, what these changes are leading us to. Getting it? So people don't have a clarity about what the possibility. So fear and anxiety due to modern social changes, right? Then we can see the conservatives, they supported the existence. So they are supporting the existence of hierarchical system. Remember, they are supporting religion, they are supporting joint family, they are supporting the idea of God. Remember all that? ऊपर मैंने underline किया हुआ. So they are supporting existence of hierarchical system. They are supporting patriarchy. देखो, जो बच्चे भूल रहे हैं, फिर से दिखा देती हूँ. So when we are talking about these thinkers, what they are supporting per se, so with respect to these conservative reaction to this given dimension, I had given you certain insights. ये देखो, यहाँ पे मैंने ये part. Can you see that? So traditional institutions like patriarchy, monogamous family, monarchy, Catholic Church. Catholic Church hierarchy है कि नहीं है? है ना? Bishop, archbishop, cardinal. So there is hierarchy. When we are talking about patriarchy, patriarchy में hierarchy, monarchy, monarchy में hierarchy है. Are you understanding that? So this very idea, this very insight, यहाँ मैंने इसीलिए इसको underline नहीं किया because we have it in the point. So this is what is connected to. They supported the existence of hierarchical system. Understood? Everyone? So here we can see, while most of these feared changes were leading to a more rational society. Okay, so when we are seeing that these people, the conservatives are fearing changes. They are fearing changes because they felt that rational society आएगी तो कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि हम sense of unity खो दें, sense of interdependence खो दें. क्योंकि ritual, ceremony, worship ये सब क्या create करता है? Stability, order, getting it? So they were scared that we might lose it. All right, understood everyone? So this is how during the period of enlightenment, we see two types of responses. One is the response of the radicals or pro-change people, and second is the response of conservatives. Who are the two conservative thinkers? नाम बताओ बिना देखे. Who are the two thinkers? Okay, Louis de Bonald and
Joseph D.
Maistre. Okay, that's how you remember names. Okay, Joseph D. Maistre. तो ये सारा कुछ होता है. फिर आता है पोस्ट एनलाइटनमेंट पीरियड. तो एनलाइटनमेंट का असर क्या पड़ता है सोसाइटी पे? हाउ डज पीरियड ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट impacts the next phase? How can we see the next phase undergoing the change? So the next phase sees these kind of changes. First, the philosophy of history. Second, biological theories of evolution. Here you see Charles Darwin. And then we see the surveys of social conditions. These three prominent changes emerge. So these three intellectual influences are the precursors of sociology. ये तीन changes ही क्या करते हैं? Sociology के emergence के लिए pave करते हैं. So the period of enlightenment led to, जैसे आप आंसर लिख रहे हैं, तो उसमें the period of enlightenment led to the philosophy of history, the biological theories of evolution, and the surveys of social condition, which paved the way for emergence of sociology as a discipline. Because what is it saying? It is the intellectual influences. The intellectual influences that are emerging due to this period that we all can see that sociology emerges. Iska bhi maine detail de diya. Let me share this. The detail of these three may not be asked. Okay, but you should know it as a background because you never know. Because once in a while UPSC plays with the in-depth insights. For example, कार्ल मार्क्स जो है उनका फेटिशिज्म ऑफ कमोडिटीज पिछले 40 इयर्स में एक बार भी नहीं पूछा, सिर्फ एक बार पूछ लिया, फेटिशिज्म ऑफ कमोडिटीज। और जिस साल पूछा बच्चे बोले इसमें लिखे क्या, and was nothing but associated with the isolation which labor class experiences. The way the labor class is detached or dissociated from the final product, the consumer is using the final product but cannot see the labor in it. The efficiency, the articulation, the artistic, we can say, caliber of the labor in it. So ये फेटिशिज्म ऑफ कमोडिटीज जब यूपीएससी ने पूछा, बच्चों की ऐसी बगिया हो गई कि अरे ये क्या पूछते हैं। So इसीलिए बीच बीच में आप देखेंगे कि मैं डेप्थ और डिटेल भी बताते जाती हूँ, because you never know. यूपीएससी का क्योंकि एग्जामिनर क्वेश्चन पेपर देख रहा है, उसको 10 साल से दिख रहा है एक ही तरह का क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है, लेट मी आस्क समथिंग डिफरेंट। तो अगर उसमें उसने पूछा कि ड्यूरिंग द पीरियड ऑफ पोस्ट एनलाइटनमेंट व्हाट आर द कोर आइडियाज व्हिच इंस्पायर्ड द इमर्जेंस ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी एज अ डिसिप्लिन, तो बस सिर्फ यही 3 लिखना है। So it's all about the nature of question and the way it is asked, that you have to engage with the content accordingly. So what is the philosophy of history when we talk about it? So the philosophy of history is associated with a series of steps from simple to complex stage. मतलब सोसाइटी एक स्टेज से दूसरे स्टेज पर पहुंचती है। इससे रिलेटेड a lot of thinkers you will find. Like for example, if I talk about Auguste Comte. So Auguste Comte is talking about 3 stages of human society. He is talking about 3 types of society. Okay, first stage in which human beings are dependent on God. People feel God is at the center. People are scared of the forces of nature. The second stage is the metaphysical stage, which is called the age of reason, where people start questioning. People start asking what should be there. And the third stage is the positivist stage, the age of science, where man is at the center. What is there? Why is it there? How is it there? What should be there? All those questions. So you'll realize a lot of later day sociologists and thinkers, they'll get inspired by this philosophy of history. तो ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट भी इस फिलॉसफी ऑफ हिस्ट्री में वो अपना इंसाइट देते हैं। हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर बात करेंगे एंड ही विल बी सेइंग दैट अनदर थिंकर, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंकर इन सोशियोलॉजी अगेन, सो ही विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट सिंपल सोसाइटी लाइक ट्राइबल और प्रिमिटिव सोसाइटी दैट मूव्स टू कंपाउंड सोसाइटी, देन डबली कंपाउंड सोसाइटी, आपको कहीं कहीं ट्रिपली कंपाउंड सोसाइटी मिलेगा, बट सिंपल सोसाइटी, कंपाउंड सोसाइटी, डबली कंपाउंड सोसाइटी, these words Spencer will be talking. So what are these people talking? How the society moves from simple to complex stage. Understanding that? So evolution of society from simple to complex stage. They will be talking about development and progress. On the scientific side, they will be talking about the concepts of historical periods. And the thinkers who are talking about philosophy of history are Abbé Saint Pierre, and then we can see this Guillaume Battista Vico. Okay, so Guillaume Battista Vico and Abbé Saint Pierre. These are the thinkers who can be connected with the philosophy of history. बस इतना भी याद रखोगे काफी है. What does philosophy of history imply? Series of steps from simple to complex stage or 2 thinkers. ठीक, यही 2 थिंकर आगे चल के ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट और स्पेंसर को भी इंस्पायर करेंगे स्टेजेस ऑफ सोसाइटी डिस्कस कर। आगे मैंने उसको नोट्स में दे रखा है, सो यू डोंट नीड टू बी स्कैर्ड कि मैम ने जो अभी ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट का स्टेजेस बताया या हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर का बताया लिखा भी नहीं तो छूट ना जाए, मिलेगा, आगे मिलेगा. Then we can see the biological theories of evolution. In this biological theories of evolution, what will we see? The influence of philosophy of history. It led to the theory of evolution, whereby we see Herbert Spencer and Emile Durkheim. These thinkers, they start talking about how the society evolves from one stage to another stage. And the third and the last one is survey of social conditions. So survey of social conditions, it is talking about social surveys. They form an important element in the modern society. So it emerges due to 2 reasons. What are the 2 reasons? So one is the growing conviction that the methods of natural science could be extended to study human affairs. तो जो natural science के methods हैं, research methods and techniques हैं, उसको हम human beings के study में भी use कर सकते हैं. Means quantitative methods can also be used to study human beings, like social survey करते हैं ना, So in social survey, what do? What is your religion? Are you married or not? How much property do you have? If you're married, how many children do you have? The data. And that data is analyzed. Population census is the best example. सेंसस में हम क्या करते हैं? क्वांटिटेटिव डेटा लेते हैं और उस क्वांटिटेटिव डेटा का क्या करते हैं? एनालिसिस करते हैं. क्वांटिटेटिव डेटा इनिशियली कहाँ यूज होता है? नेचुरल साइंस. वो नेचुरल साइंस के मेथड को यूज करके अब कहाँ यूज कर रहे हैं? सोशल साइंस. Are you understanding this? So this is how we all can connect. So the human phenomena could be classified and measured. Whatever is associated with human phenomena, we can classify it, we can measure it. Who is saying that? The thinkers who are believing in the survey of social conditions. So they are saying we can study human phenomena also, just like natural phenomena, just like natural science. जैसे नेचुरल साइंस को पढ़ाई की जा सकती है, वैसे ही ह्यूमन साइंसेस की भी ऑब्जेक्टिव तरीके से, मैथमेटिकल तरीके से पढ़ाई की जा सकती है. यही कौन कह रहा है? सर्वे ऑफ सोशल कंडीशंस. अंडरस्टूड एवरीवन? एज सिंपल एज दैट. यहाँ पर एक एग्जाम्पल है जो सोशल कंडीशन को आप स्टडी कर सकते हैं, सोशल प्रॉब्लम्स को स्टडी कर सकते हैं. एट दैट टाइम दे प्रपोज दिस सिंक्लेयर सर्वे. ठीक? अंडरस्टूड? This takes us to the next subtopic, that is American Revolution, French Revolution, and that is political change. This was about intellectual change. Intellectual change in the form of period of enlightenment. Period of enlightenment कहाँ से शुरू होता है? Period of Renaissance. Renaissance जिसको आप कहते हैं, तो Renaissance से period of enlightenment. Focus किस पे रहना है? Period of enlightenment and how it paved the way for the emergence of sociology. Understood everyone? So we are creating a balance between radical thinkers, the idea of hope, change, innovation, balanced with stability, order and harmony of conservatives. The goals are taken from conservatives, not their methods, not their approach. Approach we are taking, methods we are taking from radicals. So methods radical का ले रहे हैं, goals हम किसका ले रहे हैं? Conservatives का ले रहे हैं, blend कर रहे हैं और उसी के balance के साथ हम सोशियोलॉजी को इमर्ज कराने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. ठीक? पीरियड ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट से हम तीन चीजें और लेते हैं जो पोस्ट पीरियड में हम कंटिन्यू करते हैं. द फिलॉसफी ऑफ हिस्ट्री, बायोलॉजिकल थियरीज ऑफ एवोल्यूशन एंड सर्वे ऑफ सोशल कंडीशंस व्हिच पेव्ड द वे फॉर सोशियोलॉजी. अंडरस्टूड एवरीवन? All right. So what is your homework? Your homework is try to complete. You can see that when we are talking about it, there are 25 pages into that. So try to at least complete till page number 15. पेज नंबर 15 तक घर से पढ़कर आइएगा. स्टार्ट फ्रॉम पेज नंबर 1 itself and read till page number 15. If you are reading 10 pages per hour, you are getting a homework of 1.5 hours for today. Okay, so try to read 1.5 hours. Maybe someone can take 2 hours also. And because the further pages I have not taught, you may take some time to read. You may not understand, but you'll get introduced to certain words, certain terms, and certain insights. In bits and pieces, things will be in vacuum, but when I'll explain, you'll be able to connect with it. Understood, everyone? All right, then. Thank you so much. This is it for today. Let's meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow means Friday. Thanks.